All right, we're live. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wargamers Happy Hour tonight, and I've got Nate with me, and I've got Kev, and we're going to talk about everything wargaming and alcohol. While we're all stuck in the house, we're just here for social hour, so hopefully everybody's going to have a good time. How you guys doing tonight?
COVID happy hour. Doing great.
That's an invisible drink.
Hey, did you see that disappear? That's cool.
What are you drinking? A martini?
It's a margarita, actually.
A margarita. Mo,
Yes,
what are you drinking? No, I know what Mo's drinking.
Yeah.
He's drinking Crown.
No, actually, no, not.
What, Jameson.
Black Barrel. Nice.
Drinking what got me through college, Miller Lite.
Nice, very nice.
Actually,
real.
I got to be honest, it was Natty Light in college. A lot of the times when I was too damn poor to get anything better.
That's what my son drinks.
Well, you could get a whole case for like $10.
Yeah.
And then you puke it up tomorrow.
Yep. That and ramen, man. It'll live like a king.
Exactly.
You know, that's actually where I got one of my nicknames in college. They used to call me Dizzy. And it's because I stumbled home drunk one too many times. And my downstairs neighbors actually found me passed out in front of their apartment complex one time. And they're like, Nate, you're so dizzy. And then it just stuck from then on.
You sure it was your neighbor and not the recruiter?
No, it was the neighbor.
And that's how he got signed up now.
I remember because I ended up sleeping with him. It was nice. It was this group of girls that lived down below me, and I used to hang out with them all the time. And I was like, yep, I'm going to get that one. I'm going to get that one.
Nice.
Nice. You slept with a recruiter? That's kind of weird, isn't it? I didn't think they did that in the Marines.
Now, my recruiter was a dumbass. I hate to say that he'll end up seeing this for sure, but no, he was a good people. He was a typical recruiter. He wanted to get people
Quota
in. Yeah, that was his goal.
He was a requota.
Yeah, if you messed up somewhere, if you had done some drugs, or if you had done whatever, he had a way around that. He'd get you in. There's a waiver for everything.
Yeah. Well, depends too. If you're like a real hooplehead, I mean, you're a dealer and stuff like that, odds are they're not going to let you in.
Tell me though that you did not have some friggin' ASFAB waivers in your boot camp platoon. You really did.
My platoon?
Yeah, in your platoon.
Probably not that I'm aware of.
Dude, we had a couple of guys that were, I guarantee you, they had to be ASFAB waivers. And for people who don't know what an ASFAB is, it's that test that you take to check your aptitude in multiple different things, not just like intelligence, but how good you are mechanically and everything. So they use this to determine what you do in the military.
How many crayons you can eat in an hour.
Yeah, and a passing score isn't something like a 90, like you would have in a civilian test. I think a passing score, something like a 50 is like average or so. But you need a 35 at least to pass. If you don't have a 35, you have trouble breathing and walking at the same time. And this guy, I guarantee you, he had to have a waiver. And I remember he was directly across from us, so they had the racks lined up on each side, right, as you go down the aisleway. And I was on the right side, he was on the left. And I wake up one morning, I'm like, what the fuck is that smell? What is that? I'm like, it smells so bad. And, we're standing on line, everybody's at attention, and the drill instructor comes up. He's like, what the F is that smell? And he's all pissed off. He's like, this recruit had to make a head call, sir. And he's like, okay, go make a head call. I already did, sir.
In his rack.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, what'd you do? And the dude had taken and shit himself. Pulled off his underwear, and instead of doing what anyone else would have done, which would have been just to throw it away and clean yourself up as best you can, he's like, oh, well, we've got a laundry bag that just hangs from our rack right next to where we sleep. No, he just stuffed it in there with all his other clothes.
In that mesh laundry bag.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like these clothes don't come out, right? They just wash the bags. That's why they're mesh. So they could just toss the bags in, you get the bag back with your clean clothes. And this guy had not just one, but multiple pairs of underwear in there that had been filled with poo because he was afraid to go ask the drill instructors to go to the bathroom.
Oh, man.
And this dude graduated.
Who does that?
We had a guy.
ASVAB waiver.
We didn't have an ASVAB yet. We didn't have any of those guys in my platoon, but we did have one guy. I'm not going to say his name, just in the odd chance that on the internet things get out. I would never want to embarrass the guy, but he's a good Marine. He had some issues, I guess, in boot camp with getting yelled at, and every time drill instructor got in his face, like clockwork, he'd piss his pants, like clockwork. So he was changing his trousers, at least 2 times a day. And, he would even do the whole, did you guys have the emergency head call when you had to take a leak?
No.
In between. Oh, because if you had it, because there's like assigned times that they'll let you go to the head. Well,
yeah, we had times where you could go without asking.
Oh, no. You had to request permission to go, all that stuff. And they'd be like, private request permission, make emergency head call, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't hear no sirens. I don't see no lights. You have to stand there and go, woo, 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 woo. Like that. It's an emergency. And you had to go in circles. It's just, anything to embarrass you. So this guy never did it. He just, by the time the drill instructor got up there and he started screaming at him, we were like, you piss your pants, boy. And sure enough, he did, like clockwork, all the way down the leg. I felt bad for the guy. It was just nervous reaction, but everybody has, eccentricities, I guess. And he was like 18, 19 years old and still pissing his pants, but at least he didn't wet the bed, which was good. But
you know what else I learned in boot camp? That stereotypes exist for a reason, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not like a gay thing or anything, but, you're in the shower and everybody's doing their thing and you peek, right? What's he got going on over there? And hey, I'm just being honest.
Meat gazer.
And we had this dude named, I'm not going to say his name. Well, I mean, he'd be proud, but he was a tripod, big black guy, and he had 3 legs. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And later on, like, everybody just kind of felt bad. No one wanted to shower next to the guy because it made you feel very inadequate. And
is it cold in here? Or is it just me?
Well, the damn water was cold too. It didn't help. And we got this redheaded Irish guy in our platoon as like a holdback. And my brother comes up to me because my brother was in my boot camp, right? That was a bad thing. I suffered for that. And he comes up to me later and he's like, hey, next time you're in the shower, look at Marshmallow. Because I can't remember the guy's name, but we called him Marshmallow. He was kind of fluffy. That's why he was being held back. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to look at him. And he's like, no. Look at him. He's like, you got to take a peek. I was like, all right. So I get in the shower and I peek over and all I see is a little red ball of fluff. Like there's nothing else going on down there.
Damn.
And I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for him. But then like you've got tripod next to the little red ball of fluff. And it's like the palest white guy next to the
with freckles and red hair and stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, he was fulfilling the stereotypes from hell. I don't know. Damn, I'm sorry. I don't know how we got on the topic of this, but it just came around.
And he's only had he's had like 1 or 2 mouthfuls of light beer, and that's it. And he's already losing it. So,
dude, I don't drink, man. It's like once a year for me. Seriously.
So you're gonna be under the table here in about 6 ounces.
I could still hold it pretty well. I mean, I'm still a big guy.
Okay,
I got
8
a
ounces.
fat to put it in.
Kev, I know he got warmed up early.
Yep. I got this is number 2, so
nice.
We're good.
Nice. And behind Kev, you see Deadly Northern Lights. That is how big that map is. It takes up the entire room, including the whole wall.
I was going to ask you, is that like green screened behind you, or?
Yeah,
like,
it's just an app. Yeah, just an app.
So you just threw like a picture that just kind of fills in the background?
Yeah.
Damn, I really got to get a green screen. That way you guys aren't confused by my lighting and everything that I got going on.
No, you can even do it without the green screen.
You can do it without a green screen. This is without.
Oh, you can do it in the Steam Yard thing?
Yeah.
XSplit.
We'll show you offline.
Oh, okay.
It's secret.
Throwing in like a picture of boobs or something up there. All the focus. Or I can get like a little picture of Dan, put him in like a little leprechaun costume. And
oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, that would be hilarious. So John says, well, if you've never woken up naked in your neighbor's house, you have no story. And Von Deacon says to cut you off already. So we haven't even started and they're already telling you to cut you off.
No, not yet.
John says it was, I was basic training company XO. Don't go into kids. Don't go into kids on the rifle range or hand grenade range. That's true. Yeah, we'll go to that in a little while. And then John says it's a huge map, a very big map, and looks as interesting. But what?
Too big, probably, is what he's thinking. Or too complicated, or
well, you don't use all maps though in every scenario unless you're playing the campaign.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
one mappers, and the rest are two mappers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's only one, if I remember correctly. I think there's one that's 3 maps or something, and then the other one is the one campaign is the entire map. But I mean, you could just actually probably cut off Denmark altogether, and that'll save a little bit of map space because you've been talking about Denmark.
What game did you say it was?
Deadly Northern Lights.
Yeah. Deadly Northern Lights. I have to remember.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. Kev's been doing a lot of coverage on it. He's done a lot on Under an Iron Sky as well, which is the first game by Fabrizio Vianello and Thin Red Line Games. And the second one is, well, the third one actually is Deadly Northern Lights. The second in the middle is the command control communication game, Less Than 60 Miles. And all 3 of them are fantastic. They're not cheap, but they're fantastic. Yeah. And Kev's done a really great job in covering these games and bringing, information as to what the games are all about. So I'll let him talk about them because he's got the most experience, and he's the reason why I bought them.
Oh, it's my fault?
Yes, it is your fault. I'm trying to decide because I want Under an Iron Sky, and I'm like, how many shoes or purses is that going to be?
Reprint. You have to wait for a reprint now.
Yeah. Just wait because I think he's going to do either a bundle with both games.
Oh, nice.
2 games in the module and do that as a bundle.
Or but that would be like $400, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit less. Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll work it out.
$3.99.
Yeah, 399 euros. Yeah.
Oh.
No,
I've got this rug underneath my desk. I'm trying to pull my chair forward, and it won't go. So
it's not the alcohol.
I'm like, come on, I'm trying to get close enough. But anyway, it's an involved game, right? It's not super simple by any means. So it takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of work. And I redid half of a turn just because I thought we could have done better, and I didn't really understand how air, naval, special forces, paratroopers and Marines and all that crap all worked together. Missiles, naval battles, air dogfights. I mean, you name it, it's in there, right? And that kitchen sink, there's a kitchen sink. It's awesome. Hot and cold water. So there's a lot of little things that you sort of got to keep track of to make
it sounds kind of like World at War 85.
Bigger.
Yeah, so it's bigger than that, and it's more complex than that.
Even than the Frankfurt map? You know which one I'm talking about?
No, not size.
Not size-wise.
Oh, you mean like scope?
Scope, yeah.
Scope, but it's bigger than the Frankfurt map, dude. I mean, it's every bit of 8 feet long, and it's 1.5 maps wide and one section.
Oh, no
it's big. It's big. And then the Under an Iron Sky one, that's 4 maps too, I think. And they can be linked. Not that you would, but they can be linked.
And it's the standard size map? Was it that like 32?
They're odd Euro sized things. They're big maps. Have you got the box there, dude? I can't.
I got the manual here.
What's the state for the maps?
42-page manual, but it gives that centimeter thing. So I think it gives these.
Who knows that? Who knows those?
It just says 5 maps, but I can tell you, I did in the video. I forget the exact sizes off the top of my head, but when I put it on my table to take a picture, I wanted to see if I can lay it all out to take a look at it, take a picture of it, and I did, and it filled up my entire table lengthwise, which is 78 inches, and the top part of the map, the final map, the top one, was barely hanging on the table, so I would need another little table to hold that on. It fit widthwise because I think the table is 44 inches, so I think it was a little short on the width, but lengthwise 78. So it's a big map.
Yeah, I've got one section I've got some Plex underneath, and then a piece of sort of masonite, or whatever you call it, to buffer it up, so it's on the edge. That's on the width side, but it's just one map length of that. That's that way.
Yeah,
that's why you need the big tweezers.
That's why you need the big tweezers. Exactly.
You need the rake. That's what you need at that point.
Yeah,
to be able to reach over to it.
The good thing is, though, it's only 2 maps wide, right? So it's long, but it's quite narrow. So 2 maps is easy to reach into. You don't have any issues getting to stuff. And the middle of the map, Sweden, and it's all crap terrain. No one goes there anyway, so you don't have to really worry about it.
Yeah, no one cares about Sweden.
Yeah.
Hey,
although
Sweden's doing good.
They have a lot of cool
Women,
cool troops, cool little battalions of guys. So I'm tempted just to try and invade them just to see what happens, right?
Do they still have that little cute little tank that pops
They
itself
do.
up?
I think they do. 85,
and,
I think they do.
Yeah, drops back down and everything. I like that little tank in World of Tanks.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys actually play that game or not.
No, I've not played it.
It was just very interesting, though. Kind of reminds me of some great secondary theater games. For some reason, German East Africa, von German word. Don't ask me why. That kind of interesting.
Leto Vorbeck.
Leto Vorbeck. Okay, yeah, there you go. That's what you're there for, Mo. Translation.
That's great.
That's what Dan Pencaldi does, and for us in the shows, he's always correcting everybody's speech, and I think that's why it was the S tank. That was what it was. John brought it up. Good catch, John. And that's why that's why we have the audience participation, so they can pick up where we screw up. But
make us look smarter.
Exactly. So, and actually, the last video that you put out, you have this really cool setup, and this is exactly the type of thing I want to do. And I kind of do something similar, but not the way you do, because I'm in my dining room and I don't have like a gaming, locked in gaming area. You got the big whiteboard, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's what I want. I want a giant whiteboard so I can write notes, because otherwise I'll forget. So I write it in notebooks and stuff like that.
It helps. Well, it's a little magnetic whiteboard too, so I can put just peg piece of paper up there or whatever.
Yeah, just
to help. Makes things easier, because you get older and things start going in one ear and out the other, right? So,
but it makes solo playing so much more awesome, because you're like, what did I do last time? I don't know. Well, I know I made my move. So what was my plan? I don't know. Well, this is going to be fun. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. They'll never see it coming. And then you get over to the other side. What was I going to do?
Exactly.
No idea. I didn't expect that.
That's why I use a notebook, and I always make a note of the last thing I did, the next thing I want to do, and where I'm at in the game, so that when I come back to it, because sometimes I'll go off and play another game or do something different, and I might leave something for 3 or 4 days, and you come back to it and you're like, what is that? Where was I? And then if you can't remember, well, you might as well roll a die and pretend that something happened. So,
do you ever script any of your stuff, or you just always do it off the cuff?
For video?
Yeah.
Nah, I never script stuff. I have like a guide.
You ever watch his videos? It's definitely not scripted.
You can't always tell. I mean, if some people will script it, but make it look like they haven't scripted it. You know what I'm saying?
So I have guidelines that I use for after action reports, that if I'm going to talk about what I like about a game, I have like 10 points I cover off on. And don't ask me what they are. That's why I have the 10 points. Otherwise, I'll ramble on even longer. So I do that. But other than that, it's all off the top of the head, what I'm thinking, type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the way to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's more what people want to see, is like the actual in action, like what you're actually doing versus something that you've pre-set up. Like the only time I'll preset something up ahead of time is if I want to show a very specific aspect of a game that might take me a while otherwise to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
See, you do cool tutorials, and there you have to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to get it right, and it has to be succinct. Otherwise, you're going to lose people. So, I watched. It was funny because I know how to play World of War, right? I've played 85 or 100 times. World of War 85 is just, there's some twists on things, and things are different. So I'm sitting there, I've watched some of your videos and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, let me go back and fix that, because Nate said I'm doing it wrong. So I love those videos, because they're sharp and clean, and you did a bunch for Lock and Load as well, which is cool.
Well, you know what's bad? Like, if I sat down with Lock and Load Tactical right now, I couldn't play it. I'd have to watch the damn videos to learn it. I data dump it.
It's most games like that. I mean, seriously, there's all this talk about Euro games, hobby games. Well, I don't say just Euros, but I mean hobby games. and wargamers, and the difference between them, and that's exactly it right there. Is you could play Ticket to Ride or any Pandemic or whatever. A brief cursory look at the rules, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember how to play this game. Bam, you're back into it. Whereas a war game, it's like, crap, what do I do here? You're like, man, I'm an idiot. It's like, no, there's far more rules. That's why there's more of an investment of time and effort made for war games. And that's, I think, one of the big barriers to entry that hobby gamers have with war games.
Well, there's similarities. So many of them have like the same base structure, but they might have a different way that they're going to handle it. But you know that the game will have some type of supply lines or communication to worry about. You know that it'll have area of control. I'm talking about like hex and counter type games, right?
Yeah.
You know that generally you're going to flip the counter if they get reduced. Things like that. What do you got? Oh, you've got the next one, less than 60.
Well, that's the middle one. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what throws me off is the fact that there's this base structure. So, there's certain things, movement points or supply or communication that you have to worry about, but every game handles it in a different way. And sometimes I'll have it in my head from the previous game that I was doing X rule, and I'm trying to apply it into the game that I'm covering now, only to remember, oh wait, that was the other game. This game doesn't have spotting or doesn't have whatever mechanic it might be.
That happens all the time with me. I play so many games that they get blended up a little bit. But I think you made a great point. A guy who I used to play a few games with, either we mainly play on Vassal or we go to a pub and play. There's a pub south of town. We sit outside when the weather was kind of springtime, and we play Lock and Load Tactical actually. And we sit down. The first few times we went to play, he said, "Okay, tell me the three things." Well, actually, he said two things, and I added one. He goes, "Tell me how you move and how you shoot. That's all I need to know, right?" So that's most tactical games. How do I move? How do I shoot? And I said, and stay in supply. And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, stay in supply for non-tactical." But really, all games have those three things in common, and they might have command. And really, if you look at those things quickly, and particularly if it's an SBI game or an older game or a game built off of SBI, it's all the same. It's all. So you don't really need to learn. All you need to learn is the exceptions. You look them up as you go. That's why most of the time I'll get through a game pretty quickly that way.
Yeah, the thing that does crack me up with some supply game, some supply rules in some games, the supply rule is so generic that it's like, as long as you could trace a route, any route,
anywhere
there, it's like, okay, I'm just going to ignore the supply rule because unless you're totally, literally surrounded, you're going to have supply. You're going to be able to squeak supply in somehow. So
generally, unless the counter is completely surrounded on all six sides, you know that they're going to be able to get it at some point, regardless of what game it is. Although the ones that bother me are the ones that will split it up. And this is one of the things that I can't remember. I think it was Thunder in the East did this, but they've got like supply and then they've got lines of communication.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's a new thing. Everyone's doing that now.
Yeah, I don't really care for that because they're so interconnected. They should just be one streamlined rule to worry about rather than trying to make it two different things to where you could potentially be in supply and then maybe not be in communication. It's like, no, just keep it streamlined. You're adding complexity without adding like what good depth, I guess is the way to put it.
Is there more flavor or more theme because you're in supply but you can't get commands? Depends on what they really mean by lines of communication, right? So that can be a lot of different things to a lot of different games.
Is it Chrome for the sake of Chrome at that point?
Yeah.
Right.
And come on, by World War II, everyone had a radio for the most part. You could call in.
They still had runners. Though.
Yeah, but we shot those people. Remember, it was in the movie Enemy at the Gates.
But I mean, they were still in use. So radio coverage was, and depending, you know this too, even with digital, radio coverage is still spotty in some areas. So you're going to have those blank spots. And then if you want to, model modern stuff, which is, Mitch is doing that with the Next War series, cyber is a big thing because there's, 5 domains now. It's not just air, land, sea. There's space and cyber. So you have to consider those because you have, satellites and then you have your cyber war. And that's one of the things that I like and don't like about the interconnected battlefield of today. Of you can have like your Blue Force tracker, and you can say, oh yeah, I know where everybody's at. What do you do when the Blue Force tracker is dead, or it goes on the haywire? Can you read a map? Can you understand where everybody is in the battle space around you, and can you react correctly? And you got sniper up now, huh?
Yeah, keep going. You're doing good.
Wow, that was good. No, I like that.
Right. You're on a team. You're on a good thing.
No, you're right though. They still taught us that crap in boot camp. I mean, we still did land navigation courses, map reading courses, how to shoot an azimuth, how to read the compass properly, all that good stuff. And my brother and I actually really excelled at that. We did what was called a running azimuth, where one of us would stay stationary, the next guy would take off, keeping track of where we were going, and hit a certain point, he'd stop, the that guy would run past him, and we just crushed that course doing it that way.
Yeah, so that way, because otherwise you'll drift. I mean, I don't care who you are, you don't walk in a straight line. Everybody drifts. You know, it may be like 2 or 3 degrees, but you go 2 or 3 degrees, and 2 or 3 degrees after, say, a click, that's 9 or 10 or 15 degrees, and that becomes huge when you get further out. So those are those things that, you know, when people talk about ASL and stuff, they'll try to model things like that, and it's like, okay, some people want that hyper realism, or I don't want to say hyper realism because it's not hyper realism, it's just that complexity, which is great, but
simulation.
It's like, if you really want to do that, go sign up.
I mean, the military's almost kind of drifting away from basic skills, because even in the Marines now, they shoot at the rifle range with ACOGs.
No, they should not be doing optics. It should be iron sights only.
You've got to learn the basics. If you've got to shoot with an ACOG, what happens when that ACOG breaks? What happens when you trip going up the stairs and you don't have the optics? You need to have the fundamentals. You don't learn the Excel stuff until you've got the fundamentals in place.
Exactly. Well, at that point too, if you're in CQB, it's going to be snapshots anyway. It's going to be almost like point shooting with a pistol. It'll be point shooting with a rifle at that point, because you're within 10 yards, you know, so it's going to be, you just point and shoot, you know, so you should know your weapon well enough for that. But when you go out to any distance, you better have co-witness iron sights, and you better know how to use them, because otherwise you're going to be SOL, and that's bad. You know, that's really bad, because optics are nice, but I mean, the optics were great. I know in Fallujah, they were saying that there was a complaint from the insurgents saying the Marines were executing guys because there was an inordinate amount of headshots while they were playing whack-a-mole. They kept popping their heads up. It's like, well, you give me your head, I'm going to take it off.
Do you know how easy it is to spot someone there?
You were there.
What is that? Boom, right?
Exactly.
Sorry.
The Marines were trained to shoot at our battle site 0 is 300 meters. Now, generally, you're going to engage the enemy before that, but we shot accurately up to 500 meters in basic with iron sights. So if you're giving us optics and we're shooting at well under 300 meters, we're going to peg you, especially guys who are maintaining that training. Now, it takes me a little bit to gear back up. I'm a little rusty now, but you know, guys in their prime, they're going to peg that shit, especially in closer quarters, city type fighting situations.
Well, you know, fear has a way of motivating you to move a little quicker too. You know, it's like, crap, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get on the trigger faster. What's this?
Who was the guy that said that? You don't win a war by dying for a country. You win a war by making the other guy die for his.
The other son of a bitch die for his country. Patton.
All right. No, Patton had the right of it.
So what is this squirrel thing? I don't get squirrel. What?
Well, you were right in the middle of something interesting, and I popped up sniper, right? So you're like, oh,
I have not watched that yet. And I missed seeing that video you were doing. But I really talk about, you know, that video you're doing. You were doing like a refereed. Not even referee, like you were GMing basically sniper, because you were having a live video, and then you were telling people to make the moves. And tell us how it went.
It was fun. Well, there was 14 or 15 guys on. Only 3 or 4 of them sort of put their hand up and said, "Oh yeah, I'll take a guy." And so I would ask them. Well, I told them what the mission was when they're on a patrol, and then I said, "Hey, okay, now you've got to go from A to B, and it's going to be an ambush. So you'll know when it's an ambush when I start saying stop and you're dead." But so they would I would ask them, well, do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? Do you want to stay on the left-hand side of the road, right-hand side of the road? do you want to? There are all these different commands in Sniper, and I just basically said, do you want to be prepared to take a shot? Do you want to kneel or lay down, or you just want to keep moving and stuff like that? So it was real casual, and we didn't go through the uber technical advanced stuff in Sniper. We just played, and it was just good getting people to make decisions for me so that I could play it by myself. And I had written out kind of basic orders for all the guys that were doing the ambush. So all the orange counters behind me, the allied soldiers and the other guys you can't see because they're not on the map. They're on the other map. There's 2 maps for each person, 1 map for each person. Then I would say, okay, stop. You got a line of sight here. There's an opportunity fire. The guy fires at you, but no effect. And then here he is, and I would put him on the map for them to then decide what they wanted to do with it. So I just like trying to experiment with different ways to play games, right? And let's use all the mediums and writing and taking photographs, and I just love doing that. So it was
That's
fun.
Cool. No, that sounds fun as hell. Yeah,
it's fun. I still got it set up. I need to get a few guys who are more engaged, because this is literally an off-the-cuff thing with whoever turned up. There weren't any sort of the regulars that turn up for live streams, so I had to kind of sort of cajole people to be.
Here's an idea with that you can, we should do this seriously. Me, you, Nate, we get together, and just like we're doing now, and we get a live thing of you running this. And we have Nate runs a squad, I run a squad, and the squads are the guys in the chat. And we all kind of throw out different things we want to do, but we have to kind of organize it a little bit where we can't just have.
I'd be down for that. And there's all sorts of different games we could use for that. We could use lock and load. We could use something old like this Sniper thing. Yeah, it'd be
kind of neat. You can Nate, we'll have a little draft. It's like, okay, well, hey. I'm going to take John on my squad, and Nate's going to pick somebody else, and then we'll write it down who's in his squad, and we'll say, okay, boom. It's like, oh well, you know what? Someone just died. Hey, John, sorry, you're out, man. That's you. You're going to have to wait back until we respawn you or something. That's
right. Respawns, right?
What is it like? They can see the map and they just tell you go forward, go left, go right.
We would just give me share screen, and then you guys are on to one side or off screen or whatever the case may be. And I think the resolution would be fine. I don't know. I'd have to check it out, but.
And then John already, he's on my squad because he says Leroy James.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds like a fun to try.
Oh my God, Leroy.
Something like that would be fun as hell, because seriously, we can break it into squads, and then we can say, okay, Leroy, that's you. What are you going to do? We can actually assign names to the people and stuff like that. Is it individual people or squads?
Snipers, individuals.
So individual, that would be perfect. Then you can actually assign a counter to each player, and it might be a little difficult to track, but we'd have to just kind of
work it out,
figure out a way to. It's not like we're gonna have 100 people on playing. It's not like it's a massively multiplayer game, but that would be kind of fun.
Right. Well, you could use Vassal and just do a screen share, or we could, just point my little surface thing here at the map, whatever. It's all good. Yeah. Either way.
That would be cool. Now the cool thing about it would be really neat if it was like lock and load tactical, where we can see the explosions and the shots going down range.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be fun as hell. That would be so fun. So you guys up for that? You guys want to do that? Everybody in the audience?
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can set that up.
So Michael says he played 2 different double-blind refereed naval games, and it was fun. And John says he's going to be checking the ammo cases. But yeah, no, I love the idea of you doing that, because that's something that, generally me play. Not, hey, I'm going to run a game that you're going to play. And that was really a cool idea. I thought that was pretty interesting and real engaging to get people involved. And unfortunately, I missed it because I wanted to at least check it out and see what was going on with it. And of course, then I'd be like, hey, just run me up the middle.
Yeah. I'm
I'm the
going.
jackass that's going. I'm going to just run up the middle.
No.
We can
Oh, that's
sacrifice
funny.
a Mo to find out where all the bad guys are.
Yeah, getting mowed down. You can imagine him ragdolling his way up the street, right?
Exactly, and that's why it's called getting mowed down.
Yeah, mowed down, right?
Mo's the
Mow
one
you
that
down.
he has to walk in front of the Humvees and the tanks with the minesweeper looking for the mines as they're going.
Yeah. And it's like, is there any snipers out here? Snipers, are you out here? Are you out here? Come on, shoot me. Come on, come at me, bro. No, that would be fun.
Did I tell you I actually had a sniper shoot at me once?
Really?
Well, a couple times, but once where he was literally gunning for my head, he just missed. I was out at a retrans site in the middle, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but just tell a story.
No, it's cool. Good story. Tell us.
We were out at what was called a retrans site, so I was in the very center of the city of Fallujah, and we had a little base camp set up, and I was maintaining a Humvee that was helping to relay comm signals out throughout the area of operations. So we would stay out there for a week or two, rotate back to the main base camp, and then another group will come out. But while you're out there, it's just you and another guy, so you really didn't have a whole lot to do. You'd read a lot of books or play a Game Boy or stuff like that. Not a whole lot to occupy the time. And since we were worried about our stuff, we didn't have to do like a guard duty, so we had others guarding for us. The problem is there was a walled compound that we were in, so people on the ground couldn't see us, but people up above in the buildings around us could see us. And we didn't worry about it too much, but when we had to use the bathroom, we had the porter shitters to go take a dump, but if we had to take a leak, we weren't walking all the way over there. So we just walk around the corner of our building, take a leak, come on back in.
You told me this. I remember this, yeah.
You remember this?
Yeah.
So
Tell me.
I walk around the corner of the building, my buddy's inside asleep, and I'm just pissing on the side of the building, and I hear the crack of a shot fire off, and the impact hits like right here next to my head. And I remember I'm like walking on air, trying to pull my pants back up. No. Kind of imagine a cartoon where somebody's like legs are kicking, because I know he was getting ready to fire again. I got my ass tucked around back inside. I knew he couldn't see me where I was, and I had radio, so I could call this shit in. Called in exactly where he was. I hear the response team go in. A couple minutes later, pow, 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 pow. Problem solved. Didn't have to worry about taking a leak. Although, from that moment on, I went around the other side of the building.
I was just gonna ask you: Did you end up going to the porta shitter, or did you just find a new corner to pee on?
No, that was farther away. I would wait to go at nighttime if I had to go there, because generally they didn't have optics, so they couldn't see us as well. I remember another funny one about being out there is a buddy of mine. We were watching a portable DVD player, and I don't know what blew up. Something blew up, whether it was an ID or something. Whatever it was close enough that when the concussion of the blast hit us, it knocked us both flat. But we had gotten into some Haji whiskey, so we were about 3 sheets to the wind, and we're just laying there laughing. And, you hear the response team go out and shots fired and all that stuff, and we probably should have done something, but we were so drunk at that moment that we were just laughing, put our seats back, and just went back to watching.
It's probably better you didn't do anything at that point.
No, yeah, we definitely shouldn't have been doing anything. Well, it was, if I remember right, it was the 4th of July, or it was around that time period, because I remember we had
got a free show.
made a comment.
Got a free show, yeah.
And there's fireworks always while we were down there. But more often than not, it was the most boring post. You would just sit there, read a book. Nobody bothered you. There was no brass. There was no hire enlisted to worry about. So it was a real cushy gig, but those few moments of excitement will pucker your asshole and
who the hell says cushy gig and Fallujah in the same sentence but Nate?
Yeah, I was going to say, really.
Relatively speaking, it was a cushy gig.
Well, yeah, because it was comm stuff, so it was a little bit off the exact front.
Yeah, no millennial is going to think it was a cushy gig. They don't have Netflix and fast food delivered and shit, but you guys
didn't have Burger King.
You get medals. They would like that part. And you get ribbons and things to put on your fruit salad and stuff. So you get all those things. They'd love that.
Officers get those.
Okay.
You think I'm joking? The officers would
Put themselves in for anything.
they would put themselves in for a NAM or a Bronze Star or
Really?
whatever bulk. Yes. My brother earned, like, we all agreed that he should have been put in for a Bronze Star for a combat action he was involved with. He saved a lot of Marines' lives. 4 reports got turned into hire. Only 1 actually got pushed up the chain of command, and it was the lieutenant's. And the lieutenant got a NAM for it. And the lieutenant didn't do shit. Like, nothing. My brother took care of the problem. That's the problem, is because these, and I'm not trying to hate on officers. I mean, they do their job too, but some officers are very worried about their career and they want to be promoted, and it looks good having
jacket. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Having that chest candy, you know. I actually told a staff sergeant one time, this was real close to when I was getting out of the Marines, and I think I was Lance Corporal still, or had just picked up Corporal, and he was giving me hell, and the only medal he had was that one National Defense Medal that every service member got, the stay-at-home medal. And I had multiple rows, including a Purple Heart, and he was giving me hell for something. And I told him, like, just climb up my stack of shirt candy and kiss my ass. Turned it and walked off. I mean, I was done with his shit at that point, and he tried to go up to my gunny and, like, talk shit about it. And the gunny's like, well, he's got a point.
Yeah.
You know?
You got nothing.
It's almost like Gunny Highway. Remember Gunny Highway and Sergeant Major Chizu in Heartbreak Ridge? He's like, oh, it's so funny how they snap to when they see that itty bitty ribbon, you know, and he talking about the Medal of Honor, you know, it's like, well, that's not an itty bitty ribbon. That's a pretty huge ribbon. But John says here, my closest danger was as a tank platoon leader. My company XO decided he needed to beat up on me when we were parked for the night. So, John, you got to expand on that, man. Can't just, hear that and leave it at that. It says he spent 3 years trying to get out. So you were a tank platoon leader, huh? M1s, I'm going to assume?
You know that shit happens, though. I mean, guys get taken behind the berm, or some LT decides to handle things. Yeah.
In-house works well.
There's so many bad people, bad eggs in the military. I mean, it would blow people's minds. I mean, a lot of good eggs, a lot of good people.
I think it's a different society. It's just that there's similar bad eggs, similar amount of bad eggs, I guess you could say, as you do in the civilian world, but it's a different society, different societal mindset. And it's one of those where it's almost kind of like hockey in a way. Whereas like one of the things I love about hockey is, if you got a problem with somebody, let's drop the gloves and settle it. We're done. We'll chuck and then we'll sit for 5, ice the knuckles, and go back to playing. In the military, it's the same way. This dude needs to tune up. Hey, take him out there, give him some 4-wall counseling. It's all over and done with, and that's it. You move on. You don't carry it on. Civilian world, it's like people just sniping each other all the time. It's like, I think it would be a little better.
Shit, right?
Yeah, passive aggressive, exactly. I think it'd be a little bit better. It's like if people were held more to account, and it's like, you gonna talk smack? Well, you may have to own up to it, and if you do, people I think would toe the line a little bit, better, and say, well, there's some real world repercussions here, so maybe I won't talk as much smack.
Right. Let's all put the puffy gloves on and let's go smack at each other, right?
Well, you talk wrong to the wrong person, you get popped in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It might teach you not to do that shit, but it's not even like that in the Corps anymore. Hell, really? Right before I got out, if we needed to discipline a Marine of a different race, we needed to make sure that we had someone else there with us to vouch for whatever, NJP, really? Whatever thing that was going on.
Proper counseling protocol.
Yeah.
Rather than you gave him a talking to,
Yeah, I'd much rather, if it were me, right? Like if I screwed up, I would much rather someone take me behind a berm, pop me upside the head, say, shut the hell up, do your shit. Roger that. I'll respect that,
Right.
I'm not going to respect the sergeant that's like, stop talking back to me. I'm going to tell the lieutenant.
I can't imagine the sergeant doing that. I'll be back in a second, guys.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things where, it's like that everywhere, unfortunately. And I think it would be I mean, there's a time and a place for all that stuff, but I think a little bit more respect would be people would give more respect to each other if there was repercussions for that. I'm not saying that we should have fights every 5 minutes, but what I'm saying is just the understanding that there's repercussions. Just kind of like we'll turn it back to war games. Okay, before I
I've knocked us off of that a couple times.
No, sorry, no, I'll turn it back to war games. If I know that now he's got whiskey, squirrel. No, but if you turn it back to war games, you can just run a stack of guys into a hex, and you don't care because it's just cardboard. But at the same time, if you make it real by saying, well, if you do that, there's instant repercussions, you're going to lose a scenario. So now it kind of makes you think twice about committing those. So that's how you can take a real world situation and kind of spin it into war games. And, I mean, I say all the time, we're just killing cardboard. But if that's the thing that I love about tactical is you get more attached to your units, I think, because there's more of an immediate response if you lose them.
Yeah, more of a connection.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was talking to, who was it? I think it might have been Tom Holland. We're just talking about attachment to units or counters and how a game can evoke that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that when I play the TCS system, the tactical combat system, that's for you, Dan, in case you're watching, is that all those platoons, particularly the Japanese versus the Marines on Guadalcanal, Mantanacao, and all that sort of stuff, Bloody Ridge, at some point you just go, I can't push these Marines in here anymore. All my guys are dying, right? Or you're trying to push the big red one on to Omaha Beach, and
mm-hmm.
I stopped. I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's like industrialized killing. It wasn't fun, wasn't or interesting for that matter. So,
I found strangely enough that if a game was more modern or had a desert setting or had Marines in it, that I would almost think twice about the decisions I was making because it felt
mm-hmm.
more real to me.
Yeah,
know, especially like Phantom Fury because it was set, right where I was.
Right.
And that, really stuck with me on what decisions I was making because I had in the back of my head, still that training thing that it would impact that, but it was much less, applicable the farther back like a game went. Like World War II games, I don't feel that way about because I don't have any personal connection to it,
Well, it's the same thing, whether it's I kind of feel the same way, but it's the same thing regardless. Once you play a game, if you get into it, you try to put yourself in the commander's role at the tactical level, especially because these are squads or individuals like in Sniper or something like that. You don't want to see that guy go down. And especially if there's any progression, which is one of the things I do like about progression, where you can get like experience points and you can kind of build on the guy because you don't want to lose that guy. You're like, damn, all that experience gone. And if you look at it and say, oh, yeah, all that experience gone, but man, that's some 21-year-old dude that's gone. So you can kind of, if you put it in that respect, it kind of really does give you a little bit better appreciation of the platoon commander, their role, or the company commander's role. And that's where you kind of go, wow, this is actually a little more, if you look at it that way, you go, wow, it's a little more serious and a little heavier than I thought, but in the end, it's still a game and you're only killing cardboard. So that's
right,
good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think you can build connections with stuff, but you can keep in mind that it is a game at the end of the day. But it's interesting you mentioned Phantom Fury. I was talking to one chap who does some videos, and his name escapes me right now, but he's a veteran and was in the Marines, actually, was a captain in the Marines. And he said he won't play Phantom Fury because he was in Fallujah and too raw, too tough for him. So
sure.
I found that, that was quite moving to me that he had that visceral and experience. But your point about getting connected, it's kind of a little bit different when it's ancients, right? Because it was so far away and so different, or guys with muskets or whatever. But even then, I think I can still sort of imagine being a Roman legionnaire and standing there with your shield and your pilum and throwing that sucker out and then drawing your sword and having at it with these guys. And bashing and pushing and shoving, and that took some guts to stand to like that face to
hell
face.
That's incredibly personal combat. Incredibly personal.
Kev, the point you're making is making me think of that movie, The Last Castle. Did you ever see it?
No.
Robert Redford, right?
Yeah, Robert Redford and the fat guy from The Sopranos.
Tony Soprano, yeah.
Yeah. And the Tony Soprano character, they're both in the military, army prison, but Tony has a military collection, bunch of old stuff like Revolutionary War, Civil War, that type of stuff.
Right.
And Robert Redford's character makes the comment that, to you, this is a neat memorabilia piece, but to someone else, this cost some poor sucker his life, So he had a much more personal connection to it. He knew that it wasn't just an art piece, that was an actual weapon of war, that was a bullet that was fired at someone, that was a weapon used in anger at some point. It's not just a showpiece to put behind your glass.
Sure.
I was just looking at I was just reading the précis on the summary on the movie. It looks interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't watch a lot of movies. I try to, but never get around to it.
And then John says he really wants to try DBG Warfighter. He thinks it's what he would really want in a tactical game, and use miniatures. And you can use miniatures. They have with Warfighter, and Warfighter is actually a really fun game.
It is, but it isn't what I would really call tactical.
It's more tactical than you think, than you expect.
You're talking about the modern version or the World War II one?
I mean, either one.
Either, yeah.
I mean, they both operate off the same principle.
Yeah. Same engine, yeah.
I think it's almost its own category. When I think tactical, I think more hex and counter. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I love Warfighter. I've covered the shit out of it. But I don't know, with Warfighter, you've only got, stay there, go back, go forward. So you're on like a 2D plane versus...
Yeah, it's a little more on rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a little frustrated with you found an ammo crate full of bazookas, but I'm moving towards the enemy.
Yeah, that's the video game aspect.
So it's a great beer and pretzels game, but it's certainly not Lock and Load or ASL or Banner Brothers or Combat Commander or any of those. It's good fun, right? I enjoy picking out the bits for the guys and
exactly.
Yeah.
This is how guys accessorize, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Weapons, we pick optics.
What's my battle rattle?
And Michael says games that have continuing missions for a group of men, such as B-17 or Ambush or others, you get attached to them. It's very true.
Yeah. I've never had a plane last long enough to get attached to the guys.
No, I'm a bad air guy. I'm a bad air guy. I'm just like, throw it all at them. I played. It was also the first time playing the advanced game of Next War at Consum Dallas. Me and another guy, we were learning it, so we kind of co-op played it for the first turn.
Right.
And we're like, okay, what do we do for air? We're like, commit it all. Screw it. Let's throw it all up there. We had this giant furball, and then we were like, oh, we probably should have held back some stuff for strikes. So let's retcon that. Pull some other units back for some strikes, which we did after, but you don't know until you learn. And that's another aspect of wargaming that, you and I have talked about this, Kev, about, some people being a little, stingy on the rules. It's like, you know what? A lot of war games, you really just need to sit down and kind of co-op it a little bit, work together because of the complexity and how everybody learns.
You mean like a rules Nazi type deal?
Kind of, like people that are like, no, that's not the way it is. Like, are we in a competitive situation or are we in a let's have fun situation?
Let's just work it out together, right?
Yeah,
you know what? The guys I play with the most, we have this thing where we're helping each other decide what to do each turn, and or as they're doing stuff in the turn and conducting actions and stuff. And I'll say, oh, why are you doing that? And I'll go, have you thought about this? And oh yeah, what about that? And then as it gets closer towards the, getting to the point where we're now all comfortable with the game, it's like, okay, now we're playing. And you go, oh dang, I should have done that. Oh well, too bad. Sucks to be you, right? It sucks to get a little more real, a little more serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you all know the rules pretty equivalent, you're pretty equivalent on the rules. That's when you can say, yeah, sucks to be you, dude. You made the wrong move. Yeah, now you're gonna feel the pain, you know. And
Yeah, now I'm bringing all my guns. All right.
exactly. And if the guy is, you know, or if the player has played with you enough, they'll be, oh, this is gonna be painful.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they'll
usually
laugh
I'm
at
the
it,
one.
yeah.
I'm usually the one feeling the pain with the guys I play with. They're all
Yeah,
assholes.
me too. Because I'm pretty much one of those. I either run up the gut or I'm just gonna be like, no, I'm standing here. Like when we played Stalingrad 42, I'm like, no, we're not pulling back. We should pull back. Nah. Yeah, I'm going to go good Soviet. I'm going to stand in place. We die.
This is not bad Soviet.
I try.
You make a good commissar.
Exactly. Well, that's what we were doing. It was the whole stand your ground, you know, with the I forget the exact rule in S42, but there's certain situations where you don't not one step back. That's the rule.
Right.
And it's not one step back thing where you don't come back. And that, if you have you played that, Nate? Gotta play it. Really good game.
So what? There's actually a rule in there that if your guys have to retreat, they basically die.
They can in certain instances they can, and and also past a certain turn limit. I think past turn 6 or something like that. And it's the not one step back. It's where the NKVD is waiting for you. You know, they're just gonna be like, hey, you step one back, bam, we're gonna kill you.
You can get shot by them or shot by me now.
Exactly. So it's pretty cool.
I just don't get that as a good battle strategy. You're gonna get shot. Doesn't matter which direction you go, you're gonna get shot. Stay motivated. Love your country.
Yeah.
Exactly. Die for Mother Russia. Bond Egan says, Mo, that's why I like LNL Nations at War Compendium mini campaigns. You get invested over multiple scenarios. World War II really is more interesting.
Not enough campaigns in tactical systems. I'd like to see more campaigns.
Progression, and also another thing about that, not only progression, but the replacements, you know, especially in high attrition things like World War II and stuff like that.
There was a guy that built a campaign system, not a system, a set of campaigns for Great Battles of History. So you could go through all the battles in sequence of, say, Alexander, and he worked out, like, if you lost this much, you would get this many replacements, and these guys would get, you know, the Persians got everything because they had a zillion guys.
Sure.
But as you went along, your units got to be replenished, but sometimes they wouldn't be. So you had this sort of degradation. So you didn't start Guatemala with everything, which is kind of cool. So I love that sort of stuff at that scale. But
it almost sounds like BattleTech. You know, like if you play BattleTech, I don't know if either of you guys have played BattleTech, but you have salvage at the end of your battles.
Right.
So like you go out there and you salvage the mechs and you salvage the parts and you can reuse the armor, the weaponry, all that stuff. So it's kind of like that. So there's a persistence and there's a reason to, you know what, I'm breaking contact. I'm done. I don't want to lose too much. And that's one of the other things that I wish that more war games would do is encourage breaking contact, because how many times in real war do you pretty much fight to the last man, or say in the games we do, but in games we'll fight that way, but in the real world they don't. Whereas there's a time to say, you know what, we're not in a good tactical position here. Let's get the hell out, you know. And how could you do that in a war game though, and make it an incentive for a gamer to do that other than in a campaign situation?
Well, I think some games have had something for it. There was what's it? The Undaunted Normandy. Recently, I covered that, and I think one of the rules he had in there, because that game's so simplistic that it doesn't have, you know, something that specific, but it has the thing about the sides being pinned, and that's when you don't have any riflemen out. So you might still have troops on the board, other different types of troops, but if neither side had riflemen, then you're considered pinned and can end the game. I think that kind of simulates that effect that you're talking about, that you hit a certain point of losses where we're gonna pull back. We're gonna call it quits at this point. I would like to see that in more games though.
How many times in World of War 85 have you taken your 11 platoons of Soviet tanks and just like run them down so there's 2 left, and you're like, oh look, I won. Right.
Well, you know, the funny thing is that is, if you look back on Soviet doctrine, which when I was in the military, that was the Soviet threat was the big thing. And wave attacks, that was their doctrine. Yeah. We're going to throw.
The Soviets were a threat in the 50s?
Yes, they were.
49.
From 46, actually 45, they were onwards. They were a threat, but no, not the 50s. I was in after the 50s, 60s. No, but I'm not that old. But the interesting thing about the wave attacks, though, is speaking of 50s and 40s, T-34s were still in use in the 80s. Mm-hmm. T-34 is a fantastic tank. They throw the 34s at you, then the 54s, 55s, and the 62s, and the 64s, then the 72s. They would just wave attack the hell out of you. Right. We're going to just make you throw ammo downrange. We don't care that these tanks are going to die and these crews are going to die. We don't care. We're going to just throw all the stuff at you. We're going to hit you in waves and wear you down. So in World War 85, to your point, Kev, it would be like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to think like a Soviet. I'm going to just want to throw all my guys at it. Whereas
so if the scenario was big enough, that works, right? I think. Mm-hmm. But if you've got one company or one battalion, you blow it up, you're done, right? So anyway, you were going to say about NATO.
Yeah, I mean, from a NATO standpoint, you're going to want to husband your forces a little more. Right. You're going to have your, for the Army, you're going to have your cav out front. They're going to be like the meat puppets that are going to just say, "Oh, hey, here's the enemy," and they're going to try to dish some damage and then be feet out of dodge.
Did you just say meat puppet?
Meat puppet, yeah. Bullet sponge meat puppet. Well, that's essentially what they are. I mean, they're out there to early warning. They're a human early warning system. This is what they really are. They're going to engage first. They're going to delay as long as they can, so that way the main body is going to be ready for the attack, and then you can get these guys out. Hopefully, you can have your pre-plot artillery and airstrikes if you have any. You can get that out downrange, so that way you can get these guys back, and they could fall back through friendly lines, and then you can have your main body there to deal with the onslaught of the main assault. And it's just. It sounds cruel and it sounds cold, but that's the way it's discussed in the military. And in the game, you'll look at it the same way because you're killing cardboard. You don't care.
I mean, he's right.
Tony Costa's like, back in my day,
when I was a lad,
That's more like what Steve would say.
Oh, Steve Overton.
Yeah.
Well, back in my day.
Don't get me wrong. I love Steve.
Oh, I love Steve too. We had a good interview at Consum Dallas, and I finally, after all these years, I finally got to sit down and play as Red Eclipse. Now,
you hadn't played that?
I had not. I didn't get a chance at WBC, and I finally sat down to play it, and Kev messaged me right that day. I was like, "Yeah, I just played Steve's game." He's like, "Oh, so what'd you think?" And we were going back and forth. He's like, "Well, it sounds like it's changed in a good way," because he had played an iteration. I think what was it, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So he played an earlier iteration, so it was different than what I played. And I told him what I had played, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like there's good strides forward." So, and again, that's all the development cycle of a war game. You play something and 2 or 3 years, it's totally different. And you talk to somebody else who plays and you're like, "Well, I really didn't think it was that good," or "I didn't have it didn't connect with me as much." And then you hear what they do and you go, "Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, that sounds better. They took some really good big strides forward."
Well, it was definitely rougher in its state at that point. But you could tell there was a gem behind the rough. You know what I'm saying?
When I played it, go ahead. Sorry, Ned.
The only thing I worried about is that he would get, because it is his baby. He's been working on it for so long, that he would get overly wrapped up in the perfection of it and never put it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. That he would constantly try to tweak forever. But I think it's getting close to actual go time for him for it.
I think someone has a boot up his ass to make it happen. So.
Well, I kind of, I was talking to him at WBC, and I remember that was 2 years ago, Nate? 3 years?
Yeah, a couple of years.
Now.
Coming up on. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be WBC this year, but because that's like the ongoing it's kind of like a joke now at this point. The ongoing thing is, oh, we're going to do this WBC. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be WBC.
No.
But we had, talked to WBC about like, just get it done, man. Just get it done, get it out. And finally, I think now he's got that forward. And like you were saying, he's got the boot in the butt and finally making it happen, which is good because if you take too long, it's things will pass you by.
Well, I think that releasing it sooner rather than later would be a good thing for him because World at War 85 did so well, and this is set in the same time period. So it's almost like the tactical version, of World at War 85 in a little way. I mean, they're very much separate games, but riding off the success of World at War 85 would be a good idea for them since that one did very, very well.
That's very true. And, before we go any further, I wanted to bring up something Stigler brought up. He says, I would be very careful that a tactical war game didn't become an RPG. Progression is getting awfully close to D&D's experience points. But he's got a good point. But at the same time, how else can you have a campaign without progression? And that ties back to the game that Kev's got back behind him right now with the cadre rule in Deadly Northern Lights and Under an Iron Sky, where you're untested, untried, then you get into combat and you can either go down or go up.
Right.
I don't care if they put experience points in there. I don't care what they call them. I like the idea. I like the idea of some type of progression. I think it would be awesome to have an ambush style system where your guy goes from private to corporal to sergeant. His base stats go up, if you will. He has a better target acquisition,
right?
Better stamina.
If you're down at that scale, I think that's perfect, right? Why not? I think if there are ways that you keep people engaged with the system and they play it more and they want to buy more modules because they want the guy to keep going, then you should do that. But if it's a system where I guess when I would look at World of War 85, I don't want a character in that. I might want a unit or a formation that I am leading or managing, and maybe there's a camp. I was just more interested in the campaign aspect of running from battle to battle to battle, and then having the replacements come in, and then it's more like what's behind me. It's more like Deadly Northern Lights, but at a more tactical scale. And
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to talk to Dave about with the World of War 85 and the whole. There's more modules. I want to see a Sharps rifles in there.
I talk about like the 1800s Sharps rifle.
Yes, that you are correct. That's the Napoleon era. But I want to make it. I want to have Kev Sharp be in charge of Sharps rifles. That'll be the unofficial nickname of the unit. It'll be a real unit.
Funny.
But it would be kind of cool to have a Sharps rifles in the World of War universe. What's that?
I'm going to text Dave right now while we're talking and tell him that's not going to happen. He already gives me enough shit for that, for wanting the M1 the M1s in there. He's like, we put the M1s in because Kevin complained.
The M1A1?
Yeah. No,
there is actually a game.
The A1s. I think it was A1s.
Yeah, the A1s. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nate. What's that?
Are you two girls done flirting with each other now?
Yeah.
Well, Nate, we can have Nate's Night Riders or something like that.
No.
I just thought Sharps rifles would be cool because of as you said, the Napoleonic era story.
No, I'm thinking of a different time period. I'm thinking of the movie True Grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Matt Damon's character is talking about his Sharps rifle, the Sharps carbine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
The Sharps carbine makes a good rifle. When he's shooting it, but that's the rifle I was thinking of.
But no, I wrong True Grit though.
No, I don't like the older stuff.
That's a good True Grit. That's a good True Grit, though. I gotta admit, I love the old one.
It was good, but John Wayne. How do you not like John Wayne?
I was never a big John Wayne fan. I don't know.
Nate, that's just.
It's a little before my time. Like something from the '80s and on, I'm good with. Rock on. But the '70s and before, we're talking about before my time is too old. I can't get into it.
So wait. I just had a horrible thought. I'm thinking 80s. Okay, well that's not that far long ago. That's 40 years.
40 years.
It's close. I'm 38.
Oh wow, millennial.
That's what I'm saying.
What happened?
I'm not a puppet anymore. I'm old. Look, there's gray in here.
Oh,
I wake up now and I creak and I pop and I snap. It's not fun. I miss being young.
That starts in your 30s, and then stuff starts to bend and really get painful in your 40s. Shit starts to permanently break in your 50s.
It started in my 20s. After that damn landmine, my back pops every damn day, dude.
Yeah, well, that's a different situation.
Different.
Yeah, you had outside forces there.
You know you're not supposed to step on those things, right?
No, we drove over it.
Drive better.
Same difference, buddy.
I don't know if you see the tattoo, but my brother actually took a picture of it, of the Humvee, and I got it tattooed on. The little saying is, though I drove through the valley of the shadow of death, I still fear no evil. Made a little amendment for what happened with us. But yeah,
I fear no evil because I woke up after.
Yeah. I woke up to I'm sure she's probably fugly, but at the time it was just a beautiful Navy nurse. She's like, "Hi, how are you feeling?" I'm like, "Better now."
Hey, you know the old saying, man, in the Corps, never look down on the corpsman because you never know when you're going to look up at one.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Well, the chief that was taking care of me was a good guy. He was one of our poker buddies because we had a little underground gambling crew where we go play cards. And he was one of the guys that
you have a lot of friggin' fun in Fallujah, dude.
Yeah, you've got nothing to do besides go out and run missions. So you go run missions, and then you come back, and you've got time on your hands. So what do you do to fill that time? You gamble and you drink. It's not like there's a lot of women. There's no clubs. There's nothing else to do.
Supposed to drink over there. Jeez, what the hell, man?
We got it from the Hajis. They're the ones that are bringing it.
That's a question I have for you now that we're on the subject. How is the Haji whiskey?
I've been trying to find some of it. They got me this whiskey from Lebanon. It was some of the best stuff I'd ever tasted, and I've never been able to find it.
Really?
Yeah.
I tried some Indian whiskey just a few months ago at a Christmas party. Somebody says, "Oh, you got to try this," and I tried it, and everybody was staring at me like, what's his response going to be like? Holy shit, this tastes like something out of the morgue. It literally tasted like formaldehyde. It smelled like it too. And I was like, man, this is terrible. It was just terrible. And I just put it down. I was like, that's terrible. And they were like, yeah, it's from India. I was like, wow, I really feel bad for the Indian people, you know, if this is what they got for whiskey, because it was terrible. So that's why I was like, how's the Haji whiskey? Is it good?
The stuff I had was good.
We had
yeah. Well, we had to be a little
back in the day,
a little choosy on who we took stuff from, because some of these guys could have been bad hands. They could have been poisonous or something like that. So the only people we would buy from is our translators, our terps, because they ran missions with. We trusted those guys because they were actually out there running a gunning with us.
Yeah.
The rest of them we didn't trust. Like, as far as we could throw them.
Well, it's also instant justice. If they did something stupid, it's like next time they were out on a mission, they probably wouldn't come back.
Right.
I mean, you get friendly fire.
That's a good question.
What
was the one that was up there before about OST? Because that's a good point about OST. About the casualty points.
OST uses casualty points to reduce enemy impulses, which is really a good idea. And OST 3 is top shelf. I've not played OST 3 yet. I played OST 1 in Stalingrad. I've not played the third one with the Marine Corps.
No, I didn't order that one. I got the other two. I like it.
I thought it was a good system. I really did. The only two drawbacks I had to OST was one, at least on the first one. I don't know if the second one changed it up at all. I don't think so, because I see that they've got some sort of neoprene like boundary markers that they use, but there is you get this giant gorgeous map, like the Stalingrad map. It's gorgeous. But you have to put out the little counters to say, okay, here's your boundary. It's like, no, get this gorgeous big map. I want to fight on the whole thing. You know, that was the only thing. It's like, it would have been better if it was a sectional map. And then the other was the rule book. You know, the rule book could have used some love, in my opinion. I think it could have been a little bit more organized. Other than that, though, it was a really, really, really fun game.
I have you played it, Nate?
No, strangely enough, I have the expansion to OST, but I don't have the base game, so I still need to get it. It's no, one of my subscribers had for some reason gotten 2 copies of the expansion, so he sent me one of them, and I plan to get the base game. It's just on my list of need to get so I can cover it.
Just get a copy of the rules. At least you just make something up and just goof around with it to try it, because it's an interesting system. One of the things that I liked, certainly liked the casualty track. I found the original armor rules to be basically kind of broken.
Speaking of casualties,
dead man. But they fixed the armor rules because you could hit something and cause a damage, and hit the same thing over and over and over and over again, and it would not cause a bailout or a kill. Right? You know how most times you get 2 damages on a tank, that's a kill.
Cumulative damage.
Yeah, cumulative, right? So they fixed that, which was great. And then the thing I don't like this rolling for impulses, especially we've got 3 or 4 dice. So I can get anywhere from, with 3 dice, I can get from 3 to 18 impulses. So
crazy.
As the attacker for the first turn, if you get crappy rolls the first 2 turns, you may as well just stop and reset and go, okay, Now, I think
by impulse, you mean like activating?
Activating guys.
Yeah,
like just one group or all your guys. So like each impulse is one group, one unit.
Basically one unit or one stack. I'm going to take this ear off here so I can hear how loud I'm talking. The impulses are an activation of a unit or a stack of units, or if you've got a lead or a group of units. So I found that a little frustrating, but once you get used to it and kind of just re-roll the crappy rolls, and I also think they've started saying there's minimums now that in most scenarios, or the newer modules, I think there's minimums for a lot of them. So that's handy as well.
That just seems like it could cause some really big swings, because if one side gets a 3 and the other side gets an 18, I mean that's a huge.
You're sitting
swing
there, right? All you're doing is doing up fire, right? So it could be problematic, and I think it could be tuned a little better. Like the scenarios maybe could have a little more thought put into them from that perspective. As the defender, you want to have maybe a minimum of 3 or 4 actions, and as the attacker, you want half a dozen if you've got 3 dice, right? So,
see, for me though, I don't have any problem like home ruling something, ad hocing something, changing it, on my own. Yeah, I've done that a lot with Conflict of Heroes, adding in my own solo scenarios, creating my own. I don't care. My concern is having fun with it. And as long as I'm having fun with it, I don't care if it's in the rule book or in the scenario book.
Hey, as a side point here, Stigler says, Sean Bean has always gotten killed in every other series film he was in. Kev is smart to avoid Sharp's rifles. Sean Bean survives the entire series. I think pretty much the only thing he ever did survive.
Which series are you talking about?
Sharp's Rifles.
Oh, is that a show or something?
Oh, is that?
Oh my god!
Right, I haven't watched it.
Oh, that's right. You don't like old stuff.
The 70s.
Yeah, you got to speak to me like I've only seen stuff from the 80s and on, late 80s and on.
Okay, I may be a little off here. I think there were 15 movies. In England they call them series, just like they do with Sherlock. They have like series. They have like one movie as a series. It's not a series. It's a movie. But Sharp's Rifles was, I think, 15 movies. Maybe 12, 15, somewhere in that range. I'm pretty sure it was 15 or so. And fantastic
and British movies.
Yeah, done by BBC, and it was.
Now we're the marching.
What?
What did he say?
Oh, no way, dude. The Musketeers? You've not watched the Musketeers. And
I've watched the Musketeers, but I've watched like the modern Musketeers.
Yeah, that's from the BBC.
Is it really?
2014. There were three seasons of the Musketeers.
No, not the show, the movie.
Oh, no. The show.
That had, what's his name?
Oh, you're missing out, dude. You got to watch the series. It's great.
I watch good stuff. I don't watch old stuff or BBC crap.
It is good stuff. It is good and it's old. Don't be like that. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the BBC, but the Acorn channel for $5 a month has more content, keeps my wife happy upstairs. She makes me watch some of it with her because she wants me to translate.
BritBox.
What's he saying? You think I understand Scottish brogue? No, I don't.
My wife will watch some of that crap, the British crap, their version of Jersey Shore.
Oh,
she got it.
How can you have a British version of Jersey Shore? There's
I
only so much Jersey that you can do in England, you know?
It was like Cagney, like that Cagney accent, that really bad British accent is what they were speaking. I can't copy it. I'm too Southern for that shit. But she was really getting into that. She's like, honey, don't you think this chick is trashy? Yes, babe, I do. Please stop.
So Stigler says, India is a far cry from Kentucky. I'm going to tell you right now, no.
It sure is, that's for sure.
So not Dead Man Kevin, it's Squirrel. I'm catching up on all these chats we've missed out on. Upfront is dramatically more tactical than Warfighter. Yeah, yes. Well, that goes without saying. And I see the Armchair Dragoons crew has joined in. With Jim chiming in about that. Upfront is more tactical than Warfighter. It is. No one is comparing the levels of tactical, beauty of the different systems, but Warfighter is a really fun system. I really enjoy it. I mean, if you want to just sit down, throw down some cards, and think tactically without having to get too overly detailed, great system. And the narrative
I saw
unfolds.
Someone talking about Warfighter recently, and I want to ask you about this. The guy made a post saying that he wanted DVG to invest in an app for Warfighter that would automatically generate scenarios and unit structures with weapons and gear and all that other stuff. And some people were pointing out like, hey, gearing up your guys is the best part of the game, which for some people I could get. Like me, I love doing that part, but I could see why some people don't like that part.
Nope.
The thing is an app, like a decent app for them to do that, would be fairly expensive for them to create, and it would have to be worth the investment. I just don't think that that would be worth it for DVG to put in that level of effort. You know what I mean?
Pay $5 for it or $10 for it because it would probably cost $100,000 to make it. Right?
No, I wouldn't even put it that high. It'd be in the thousands, but I don't think it would be near that high. It depends on the quality that they.
How much do you know about software development, Nate?
I know that I make videos.
It's a little different, but kind of the same because it has PCs. So,
Dick. This is why we have happy hour.
No, I get what you're saying, but that's the point I was making to the guy, though. I'm like, is it going to sell enough games to cover the investment and be worth, some profit for him in the end? No, it's not. DVG is not going to make that.
It's probably not $100,000, but it's a lot of money. It's certainly more than a few thousand. Yeah. Even if it was a mobile app, right? Yeah. Just because of all the artwork and getting that artwork in and vectored and having the random drawers and the pulling down and all the bits and pieces and bug checking and QA, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. There's a lot more that goes on the scenes behind software development than people really appreciate. So, what Kev's saying is a really good point.
Wait, Kev, do you do software crap?
Yeah, sort of. I don't do it, but I have people that do it, and I yell at them a lot. So
I like that. Like, my people take care of it.
I wish they were my people, but they're just people.
John says, I thought Sharp was always away from the 95th because he had a hot date with the Queen of Spain. He was with the chosen men. 1993.
Is that really?
Was it really that recent?
I could listen to Sean B talking about musket powder all day. I can't do his voice. He's got that really great accent. I love Sean Bean. I'm a big Sean Bean fan, and it's like the big joke is they don't kill Sean Bean, and it's great because pretty much everything he goes into, he dies.
Yeah, that's why I stopped watching Game of Thrones. Not trying to
I
spoil it for
watched.
anybody,
No. Well, jeez, at this point,
Yeah.
I actually was excited. My wife got into Game of Thrones, and I was like, "Oh, Sean Bean's in it." Wow, crap, he died like in episode 2 or whatever that was. I was like, okay, well, yeah, he pretty much lived out his life cycle in movies and shows, but Ned
he was the main character.
Stark or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? No, stop killing characters that we like.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that. They do. That's the thing these days, right?
Yeah. Well, after that, the only reason to watch the show is for the naked chick, and you've seen her enough in season 1, so you're pretty well covered.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, which naked chick?
Oh, I like the cute platinum blonde one. Can't remember her name.
Khaleesi?
Yeah, the one that was doing Aquaman.
Yeah, I watched, I think, one season of. My wife has watched, I think, pretty much all of them. I haven't watched anything past like season 1. I got into it, and I really like. I can't think of his name. The little guy.
Oh yeah, the
no, the actor though. Well, yeah, Tyrion Lannister, but I mean the actor himself. I think he's a fantastic actor. Every time he's on screen, and I mean this sincerely, you forget that he is. There's anything about him, about his height or anything like that. You forget about that because he's a great actor. He really is.
He uses it.
Oh, he absolutely does. And I was like, man, I just love this guy. When I was watching the episodes, I was like, man, I really love this guy. But I remember when I watched it, I was really sick and I was taking a lot of NyQuil. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally lost because this is a series you really need to pay attention to because there's a lot of plots and subplots that you need to be paying attention to, and I was like, I'm going to come back to this someday. And now that it's complete, I'll probably sit there and binge it one day, or not one day, but at one time. So that way I can follow it a little more, closely. But he was fantastic. And I thought, what's her name? The one who played the sister, I forget her name right now. She was also in Dread, and she was amazing in Dread. She was in Sarah Connor Chronicles. Can't think of her name.
Are you talking about the chick from Firefly?
No, not
Summer Glau?
No, not Summer Glau, who I love, because I love Firefly. But I can't think of the actress's name. She played Mama in Dread, the new Dread, the best Dread. If anybody's not seen Dread, go see Dread. You talking
about Judge Dredd?
No, Dread, not
Olivia?
Judge Dredd, not Stallone. Dread. What was that?
No.
Yeah.
That's not her. Never mind. What was her name? What was the character's name?
Mama. In Dread, I can't think of her name. She was also in Game of Thrones. She was the one with Lena Headey. Oh my God, she was amazing. She's a beautiful woman. In Dread, they made her look like scarred up and everything.
Oh wait, was she the queen?
I'm
the
not
blonde
sure she's
chick?
the queen.
No, she was not the queen.
No, she's the one with the brother at the first season.
Yeah, the one that was doing her brother.
Yes.
She's all right. She's like a solid 7, but she.
No. She's a great actress. In Dread, though, if you pull up IMDb and look at her on Dread, they made her. I mean, she's an attractive woman. They made her look hideous, but she owned it. Yeah, she owned it. And I hope they continue on with that Dread series because I thought Carl Urban was Dread. He was Dread. He was perfect as Dread.
Yeah, they're not going to redo it. If they were going to do another Dread, they would have done it by now. Carl Urban is he's not in his prime movie acting time period anymore. He hasn't done anything. Wow.
He was a great Bones. He was a great Bones.
I like that series. I know we're getting sidetracked again, but I like that series.
It's Happy Hour, man.
Too Human. Did you ever see that?
That was good. That was good.
I loved it. I hate that they canceled it. I thought that was a great show.
It was on Fox.
Yeah, him and the robot. Fox does that shit all the time. They're like, "Oh, we have this great show. What we should do with it?"
Firefly fans will, just laugh at you when you say that because it's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
From 2002, they've been screwing our great shows over.
Right.
Firefly is my favorite show ever, dude. I love Firefly.
Before that, there was another great show called Space Above and Beyond. Anybody familiar with that?
I think I've heard of it, but
you need to watch it, Nate. It is the Marine Corps in space, and they go through boot camp. And guess who the drill instructor is?
Earlier me.
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's earlier. God, I love earlier. I mean,
It was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was interesting. The good thing
I
is
had
there
a
was a
chance
closure
to
to it, though. What's that?
and I had a chance to meet him and missed it, unfortunately.
Okay, you're gonna hate this.
And he's
What?
Arlie Ermy. He's a great guy, the gunny. He was at my base camp when I was deployed overseas. He was filming an episode of Mail Call about how we were handling something or other. I was working the night shift, but I knew he was going to be there the next day. But I was sleeping through the days at that point, and I told someone, I'm like, all right, when he's here, wake me the hell up. They didn't wake me up, and I ended up sleeping right through the time he was there. And the dude was great because after he filmed the show, he stayed and talked to the Marines and took pictures. And he waited until every Marine that wanted to see him got a chance to see him. Yeah, kiss my ass. I'll hit you.
That's great.
When did you get to meet him?
That was shit. Let's see, 2014.
So a little while back. Where was it?
It was here in Allen. I live in Allen, Texas, and he was at Cabela's, and I was
You
like,
just
No way.
ran into him out of the blue?
"Yeah, no. He was here for SOG. He was doing a thing for SOG knives, and I was like, "Oh, Gunny Army," and my wife's like, "Oh, we're going, right?"
I'm like, "Oh, shit."
She knows, and I'm like, "Yeah, hell yeah," because she used to love watching Mail Call too. She knows how Gunny is just he's a legend in the Corps. So I was like, "Yeah, let's go see him," and she was talking to him. I was talking. He was such a nice guy, completely polar opposite of what you expect. Because we all know him as Gunny Army, and he's just Gunny from Full Metal Jacket, and he's like,
Sure.
yeah, I'm all typecast. No one wants to hire me to do anything else. I don't know why. And he kind of laughed at it. My wife's like, oh my God, you're such a sweet guy. You're like my favorite grandfather type of guy. It's like, well, thank you, sweetheart. Like that.
The funny thing is when he was at the base camp, one of the first things he did was address all the troops right before they came out to talk to him. And he's like, all right, I'm going to answer it now because I know what you effers are going to ask. And he's like, they paid me $100,000 to kiss Jack Black, and I'd kiss any one of you motherfuckers for $100,000, and y'all do it too. And everybody bust out laughing because that's exactly what everybody was going to ask. Like, how is it kissing Jack Black? And I can't blame the guy. If someone dangled $100,000 in front of my face, I'd kiss a guy. I don't give a shit.
With tongue?
$200,000 for tongue. Yeah,
No, I was gonna say because I'm not.
No, get it to the millions now.
You gotta chip in a little bit. It's got to be
yeah.
life-changing money.
Billions.
Yeah.
Well, not billions. I mean, for billions, there's damn
For
near
tongue,
anything I do.
For tongue, it's billions.
Shit, for $1 billion, I'll swallow, and I'll do it with a smile on my face. I don't give a shit. Beer's kicking in.
Wow, he's had one beer.
We're gonna have to I'm on.
No,
this one's getting ready to be 3.
Oh no, that's right. You start off with a can. Now you're on.
Yeah, he had a can first.
Nice, nice.
We're watching. We're coaching you. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been.
Yeah,
we
Chad
don't
Gorse
want to
said-
get in trouble with the missus.
No, she brought them to me.
You know
I
what
saw
a dad does to his medication.
No,
She's
I
a
don't
good
want. At
woman.
least when are we going to bring her into the show?
I have to talk her into it because the time period after the kids go to sleep, she's like, "Don't bother me. The kids are asleep. This is my time."
It's her
Their
time.
quiet time, right?
Yeah.
I need to watch this show then. Is it a TV series? Is Space Above and Beyond? Whatever.
You can get it on DVD now. I don't think it's on streaming anymore. I don't think anybody's got it.
What
on
is a
streaming.
DVD? What is a DVD?
What? You don't buy DVDs?
I don't.
If I could
own-
avoid it.
we own DVDs. I don't own a DVD player anymore. I gave up on those 5 years
It
ago.
was funny when this whole thing started, and I remember when all of this started, and everyone was talking about, oh, in Europe they were like throttling the internet. It was a big thing at first. Netflix users, oh, they're panicking because they can't get HD; they're only getting SD. And I was like, that's why I buy DVDs, because nowadays you get DVD and you get the digital, so you have both.
Why were they throttling it though? I mean, what?
Because just think about it. You only have so much network. You only have so much bandwidth, right? And then with people working from home and people being at home, well, that bandwidth gets really narrow. and you need the bandwidth for essential services, things like that. So you do have to throttle. And Netflix was getting hammered, and they just were like, we're going to knock it down from 4K UHD down to SD. And I don't think they needed to go that far, but I think it was because they were like, holy crap, this is happening. And it did. Everything happened all at once, and they just went.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, well, we'll loosen it back up now. So.
The European countries infringe on people's freedoms. No, say it isn't so.
Hey, who's locked in at home? America is too, so.
I can't really say anything.
Let's not get started. Let's not go there.
Arlie Ermy is a legend, absolutely. He was a drummer.
So with this, you said it. So it's only on DVD. Yes.
Yeah, you can get it on DVD.
I mean, I can rip.
You'd like it. You'd like it because you have to remember I think it was 90s, early 90s. So it's not the greatest special effects, but the story was really cool because you had these things called, if I remember correctly, they were called tanks. There were people that were basically just not in vitro, but they were what do you call that? Test tube babies, basically, and they didn't have families and stuff, and so there was this distrust of these people too. So kind of like, as most sci-fi does, they kind of like deal with social issues of racism and things like that.
Right.
And it turns out this guy's one of the guys who's a tank. He's just like a badass Marine. He's equivalent to everyone else. So it kind of shows that, hey, you know what? When we're all on the same side, we're all equal, which I thought was kind of cool. And it had females, had males, and had different colors and races, and it was really neat. And I thought it was pretty cool. And the overall story itself was a lot of fun. It was kind of like pre-Battlestar Galactica, level of drama. And BSG took it to a whole new level, which I both love and hate BSG, but it's one of those things where I really need to sit down again and watch it from beginning to end. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on BSG, but that's just me.
I was
never saw the whole series. Yeah, never saw the whole series. I got sort of frustrated with it after a while.
What did you get frustrated with?
I'm not a big TV guy. My TV is on my board. My that's my TV.
World at War 85.
Yeah. Quickly, rabbits, bunny rabbits, squirrel. So,
but yeah, no, I was the same way with BSG. I absolutely loved Adama. I mean, his Edward James almost is an amazing actor.
Yes,
his portrayal was just legendary in my opinion. It was amazing, and was as was Rosalind. I loved the way they kind of played off each other and together. But some of the other stuff was annoying. The thing that really annoyed me was Baltar and Six. They would just slide off into these like stupid things where he was dreaming her, and I was like, you're taking me out of the story now,
Right,
and it was, I understand the point they were making, but it was kind of, that's where I kind of lost it. But as far as like the military aspect of it, I loved it.
Right. I am watching at the moment. I just started because I read the book series and enjoyed it immensely. Was Altered Carbon.
Oh, it's great.
Very good.
Yeah.
Season 1 or 2?
I'm only on episode 2.
Don't say anything.
Wait until he's
don't say anything. But I've read the books, but I don't know if it's the same. So it's all very
It's
different.
not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same because the books are awesome. My son had just told me that he watched Altered Carbon, and he said, he came in and said, "Oh, what are you watching, Dad?" And I was like, "Oh, this Altered Carbon thing. I'm not sure I'm going to watch too much of it because if it's anything like the books, it'll be super gory." And he goes, "Oh, it's gory, but it's not that bad." And I said, "Oh, have you watched it?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's really, really good." I said, "Well, I've got the books." He goes, "No way." So I went and grabbed all the books for him. So he's up there reading them right now. Actually, I gave them to him this afternoon. So yeah, I think it's good.
I went into the series completely, blind on the whole show. I mean, on the whole story. Yeah. So it was really good. And I can't remember his name. The actor in the first series.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but I really like that actor. He's a really good actor. He was in a couple other The Killing, and then he was also in what was that?
Suicide Squad.
He was also in that.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah.
And I liked him in it, but the interesting thing about that, which may kind of upset some people, is it's kind of like The Crow. And I love Brandon Lee in The Crow in the first one, but it's a skin. You can literally in this series, so you can have a million actors playing it over the span of and actresses playing it over the span of how many years, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so they could go on with it if they wanted to, but
Absolutely.
the best part is you get to see that female cop naked, and that's worth watching the whole series.
Oh, well, I mean, now I'm on a mission.
Even my wife, I mean, she watched the first season with me. When she saw that part, she's like, okay, she's perfect. She's like the perfect female. She fits all the mold.
Cool.
Wow.
Cool. I saw her working out in the first or second episode. I was like, oh, she's pretty buff, but I haven't had an opportunity to appreciate anything else.
No, I'm lucky. Like, my wife will point out other hot women if we're out. Like, we were at the beach one time, and we look up and we see this couple, and they're both like Adonises. Like, the guy's perfectly sculpted and the girl's perfect. And she's doing this number where she slaps him in the arm. She's like, look, she's got a perfect ass. Look at that ass. And she's like slapping me. I'm like, shh, we're coming up on them. We get by and walk a few steps up, and she's like, I want to turn around. I got to see her butt again. I'm like, okay, let's go back. I'm not going to complain. I am here for you, baby. It's a woman.
Oh, you're talking about that Martha Higuerada?
The Hispanic.
The actress? Yeah, she was really, really pretty. And then James Purefoy.
That's an understatement.
Joel Kinnaman is the guy I was thinking of. James Purefoy is another fantastic actor. I mean,
Joel
really
is
good
in that other series on Netflix, the one
Killing?
about the girl.
Oh, yeah. Abigail.
The girl that...
It was the name. Like Abigail or something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
I've only watched half of it. They were living out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere for forever.
Have you guys watched that Tiger King shit yet?
No.
Thank God. My wife keeps barking up my tree telling me to watch that. And I'm like, I really don't want to watch it. I don't know. Everybody seems obsessed with it.
Hannah. That's it.
I haven't seen that one.
He's a really good actor.
That's a cool show. I haven't seen all of it. Yeah,
he's a really, really good actor. Underrated, in my opinion, because he's a big dude, and he commands a screen in size, but also his intensity on screen, which is I really just, even when he's playing a kind of a guy who's kind of a bad guy, you're like, I want to see more of this guy. You know, just like James Purefoy, he could play a good guy or a bad guy. I want him on screen. I don't care. I don't care if he's good or bad. I want him on screen.
Right.
You know,
that's the guy that was
Hopkins.
in Solomon Kane, right?
Yes. He was in Solomon Kane.
Yeah, he does really good. I like him.
He's a really good actor. And he was in the Killing also, I think it was called. It was Kevin Bacon. And he was the mass murderer or the serial killer that Kevin Bacon was after. It was I think it was another Fox show, and that actually did last past one season, which I was amazed by. But he's a really good actor, and he's another one of those guys that kind of commands a screen and is a little underrated, in my opinion.
Sorry, I'm looking at what John wrote.
What do you write?
Look. No, one more down. But yes, Stigler's right.
So John says we have a traditional old school marriage. We have separate wings of the house. And I snore, she farts. All right. And on to the next one. Stigler goes, hee hee hee. And James Purefoy was in Rome was another great show. That was another great one that had the guy from Grey's Anatomy, who ended up going on to Grey's Anatomy. I can't think of his name. Who was also in my favorite werewolf movie ever, Dog Soldiers.
Oh, that is the best, isn't it?
That is a good show. Yep.
Oh my God! If they had just
I've seen that one.
If they had, oh my God, that is amazing. If they had just done a part 2, they would. Guys, if you're watching the show, if you've not seen Dog Soldiers,
watch it. Absolutely.
Fantastic. It's aliens meets werewolves.
The best though is when that guy's like fighting the werewolf with his bare hands, pans and shit.
Spoon.
Yeah, and he's
Yes.
getting ready to get eaten, and like the thing's got him up in its claws. Like, I hope I give you indigestion.
No,
Like,
he goes, I hope I give you this.
That's
shit, you
hilarious.
or
fucking-
shit,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like
there is no
that's
spoon.
that's the way to go out. You know, you go down swinging. That guy was hard. You know.
Oh my God, Spoon was great. There's so many great lines in that movie.
Yeah.
He goes out there and he like, he runs out into the woods and he's like, "All right, you beauties," or how did he put it? He goes, "All right, you beauties, come at it," or something. You bastards is like that's a line from the Wild Geese. It was like perfect. And then he ends up dying and he's like, "I hope he give you the shits, you fucking wimp." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's great." And he spits the gum in the face of the wolf. And I was like, "Oh, that is awesome."
You know, I actually watched a documentary about the making of that movie, and evidently it almost wasn't made, and there was like a lot of back and forth, but it ended up, obviously being made, and it turned out excellent. I think they kicked the shit out of it. The main sergeant, the one that got his guts ripped out.
Yeah, he was Alfred on Gotham.
Yeah, when he read the script, like he said, "Let me know when you guys are filming. I'll make myself available. I'll be
Sean
there for you."
Pertwee.
Yeah, he did excellent in it.
He was awesome. His guts are hanging out and they're like pushing him back in. He's like, "Oh, sausages." So many great lines in that movie.
Excellent movie, I gotta say. First time I watched it, I think I was stoned in college with my brother.
Oh,
Have you guys seen Death of Stalin?
No, I haven't
not
seen
yet.
that one.
No, that's
Oh.
what
Great movie. Yeah.
was up here. Holden was talking about recently watched Death of Stalin on Netflix. Best thing I've seen, 1917. Two things. Death of Stalin, you go. You've seen it. You talk about it.
Oh, I have a lot to say about it. I enjoyed the movie. It's hilarious. It's dark. It's without I can't really talk about it. It'll spoil the movie, but it is an extremely funny movie about the inner workings of the Politburo. So it's cool. It's really worth watching. It's got great actors in it, and everyone's out to backstab everybody else. And it's classic 60s, 70s Russia, whenever it is, whenever Stalin died. I don't know.
Kind of like a marriage.
It's just exactly like a marriage, except with Russians.
Good Russians. The funny thing is, back in, okay, Nate, this is probably when you were a kid, but back in the 90s, when I was, after I got out of the military, I got back involved in hockey. I was coaching and then I was officiating as well. And there was one of the things I got pulled into, which I thought was one of the coolest experiences I ever had in hockey was, I was pulled in to officiate a couple of games where this Russian team was traveling around America and they were playing different, teams, men's league teams and stuff like that for charity and whatever, just for fun and charity. And these guys were amazing to watch. From a hockey standpoint, it was beautiful. I mean, it really was. Their passes were soft and on target, and they just scored without any effort. And it was really amazing. These were former Soviet national players. These were guys in the Soviet national team, not on the team, but in the system.
Squad,
and some guys were on the team. And afterwards, we talked, and they were in the Soviet Red Army, and we talked about it, and we had a really good time. I remember one night after the game, after I reffed the game, we're sitting down, we're drinking, and we went on for hours. And these guys were like, hey, this is really cool, the experience we're having over here, because this is only a couple of years after the wall fell. And they're like, a few years ago, we were all thinking we were enemies. We're just all the same. We're just all the same. And it really did bring home the fact that even though there was the whole, the Iron Curtain and all that stuff, we're all the same, so it really did bring home that thing, even though there's differences. In essence, we're all the same. We can all be friends. If you dial it back 6-7 years, we could have been shooting at each other. Thankfully, we weren't.
I've always thought that the guys who are actually doing the fighting, the only difference between them is where they were born, right? That there's really no difference. They're patriotic and want to support their country, and these guys are patriotic and want to support their country, or conscripted. And the people who really have a problem with each other are the ones at the top, the ones that aren't going to get killed anyway. So he
Right.
decides to just go up there and take out those guys. Problem solved.
Easy way to do it is just make them fight.
It's an option, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was like back in the day, where the leaders had to fight. The king was down there actually getting stuck in as well, like Vikings. That's a good show.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a good show. I've seen some of that. Yep.
I got respect for that though. A leader that gets stuck in with his troops, if they're in the shit, you're in the shit.
Mhm.
I had a first sergeant that was like that. We were running a field X. It was real cold. It was real wet. It was raining, and there was this little like shelter area where the officers and high level NCOs had set up their tents and bivouacked, and they were all dry and warm there. And the first sergeant drug his stuff out into the mud, and they're like, "Hey, first sergeant, what you doing? There's broom up here." And he's like, "If my troops are in the mud, I'm in the mud."
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right.
I had a lot of respect for that guy ever since I saw him do that. I had actually ended up being injured. I sprained my ankle on the force march up, and that's the only reason, because I was, lower rank. I should have been out in the mud with the guys, but I'd been light dutied, so I was up there for the remainder. But I was not upset, because that was the time period where we were having to do our gas mask requalification. So we had to do.
Come on, that's the funnest time ever.
That's the best time ever.
Gas chamber is the best.
Kev, you've never been in it. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I know. I've seen videos.
It's painful. Kidding. It's terrifying. Yeah. And I didn't realize until the second time I went through it that I had such a traumatic experience the first time that I was like physically reacting. And we're all lined up the next time I had to qual with a gas mask. And I'm looking at my buddy who's right next to me. I'm like, dude, I can't go in. And like my hands are shaking as we're getting ready to go in the gas chamber. I'm like, I really don't want to go in here. And I'm like, you've got to physically push me in, because I won't go in on my own. And he pushed me in. And as soon as I crossed the seal, I was good.
Yeah.
I was okay. But going up into it, like my heart was ready. It was like a panic attack getting ready to go in there, because I knew what I was stepping into. You're like, I'll fight anything, but I don't want to breathe in something that breathes like fire. You hit on a good point. You hit on a really good point. You don't want to go there, but once you step over that barrier, you're like, okay, you're at peace. You're like, I'm here. Now I've got to deal with it. Now I've got to rely on what I've done before, and I'm going to just deal with it as I did before, and using the experience I had before to do it better. So it's kind of cool. I actually got a funny one for you. When we were in boot camp, that same guy that I told you was a tripod, he panicked in the gas chamber.
Freaked out, yeah.
And this guy,
swim qual too.
There's always someone, right? There's always someone that panics in the gas chamber. And this guy bolted for the door, and he beat off, I think it was 4 or 5 drill instructors. Like, he physically hurled these guys away, like slammed them into walls, knocked them away. He got his ass out, and he took off running for the woods. And the funny part is the drill instructors, caught him, and they drug him back through to make him go through it, but they didn't punish him because they had respect for the guy that he took on 4 or 5 of them and won. They're like, if you took out that many of us on your way out, we got respect.
You win. Yeah, exactly.
You earned your reprieve. We're not going to punish you for that, but you're getting your ass in the damn gas chamber.
But you're going through, right? Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no choice. You got to go through it. Otherwise, you can't graduate.
It's
a qualification.
Just like I'm gonna give a shout out here to Patchwork Pictures, not only for mentioning Steve Buscemi, who is an amazing actor, freaky looking, but an amazing actor. And a side note for those who don't know, he was a former New York fireman. And on 9/11,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, on 9/11, he went down to his old station house, suited up, and went to Ground Zero.
No shit.
Yes, absolutely. He did not look for, hey, I'm Steve Buscemi, the actor. No, I'm a fireman. He threw on his turnout gear. He went down with his crew, and he did the work. Absolute top respect for the man for that, and an amazing actor on top of that.
Yes,
Olga Kurylenko. Oh, God, I love her. That's all I got to say on that.
There's something about Russian broads, man.
She's gorgeous. I love her. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that he brought that up. Comrade Detective, Kev, you watched that? I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's it was either Netflix or some show, but it's rough and ready Romanian detectives. It's good. It's
Really?
good, and it was a good show. It was kind of like a cop show set in the worst of times. Right, everyone's out to make an angle and make a dollar, and you've got the political backdrop to everything. It was a cool show.
Is that on Netflix?
You know, dude, it was a long time ago when I watched it. I have no idea.
I'm gonna look for that now. I want to watch that. That's why we have the happy hour, so that we can all share this information. Comrade Detective. Need to look for it.
Sounds kind of like American Gangster, where all the cops are in.
Oh, American Gangster is amazing.
I always like Denzel Washington.
Denzel. There's not a. I honestly cannot think of. I cannot think of a movie he's been in that has been bad.
Yeah, I mean he pretty much steals the show on it.
He's one of my favorite actors of all time.
Plus, from what I've heard, he's supposed to be good people.
Oh no, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool.
It is on Netflix. Or no, it's actually on Prime.
No.
Oh, nice. Either way, I got it.
Netflix, it's. I think it's set in the 70s. The dudes are wearing sheepskin coats and leather jackets, and it's classic.
Nice.
I didn't watch all of it, but I watched 5 or 6 episodes. I really enjoyed it. It's really good.
Comrade Detective. It is your duty.
Book him, Dano.
Yeah, he's saying he got to spend a day with Olga.
What?
No way. Well, she's
and that she's short. Guys don't care if the girl's short.
I'm short. I don't give a shit.
Short just means you can pick her up and move her easier. What?
John says we're in the field of Mop 4. Mop 4 does suck. I will say that. And then Kev chiming in from the cheap seats says Comrade Detective is great. And then he's like, "You get out of the gas. No, sit on your ass in the middle of it." I think I missed that one. Is that part of Comrade
Detective? He's talking about being in Mop. He's talking about being.
Oh, yeah.
I hated Mop Gear.
Gas.
God, we had First Sergeant that loved to do that shit all the time. God, I hated him. Every time we turned around, he was like, gas. Shut up. We're in the desert.
There it is. I had to look it up. He says, I got to spend the day with Olga. She was doing a series called Magic City, and I worked with her. She is surprisingly short. Not that I cared. That makes I love her even more now because I'm short.
What does Patchwork Pictures do? He's obviously in the film industry.
Yes.
What sort of work did he do with her is what we want to know.
I'm jealous. Totally jealous.
These broads, they're going to have a high opinion. I mean,
she's beautiful. Doesn't matter. She's beautiful.
What's that chick? She was with either like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or some shit.
Which one?
I can't remember the broad's name, but
the broad. What is this? Freaking 70s? Yeah. The broad's name. I can't remember the broad's name.
Well, I can't remember her name, but I think she was with Tom Brady, and she was like divorcing or trading up or some shit. Like, you think you can do better than what you have now? No, there's no better.
Well, there's
no up.
The girl that was with Tom Brady before Giselle was the girl who was absolutely gorgeous too. She's on Blue Bloods, which is an amazing show. I can't think of her name right now. Like usual, when you get on talking, in a show, you forget names. But I'll have to look it up.
See, that's the thing, though. If you're a football star, high-level politician, really, really rich or something like that, you're never going to know if the chick's with you because she wants to be with you or if she wants to be with your wallet. I mean, just to be honest about it.
She's successful in her own right, so it's not like she needs the Tom Brady money, although he does make a few more bucks than she does.
It doesn't matter if she needs it; she wants it.
Bridget Moynihan, who was a very pretty woman in her own right. and I love that show. If you've not seen Blue Bloods, another great show.
No,
That's
I
the
have not.
cop one, right?
Oh yeah, it's in season 10. Believe it or not, season 10
Been around for
on
a minute.
CBS. Oh yeah, it's been around. And the most amazing thing about being in season 10, for the most part, everybody's still there. Unlike other TV shows where half the cast goes and they just continue on, like ER and stuff like that. No, whose dog is barking?
Me.
Gotta be Kev's. I don't have.
I have 3 dogs, and it sounds like 2 of them are at the front. I'll
Somebody's in the yard.
Doesn't that drive you crazy if you're trying to record something and as soon as you hit the record button, that's when the dogs got to bark at shit?
You have no idea. And by the way, Troy made a mistake. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go fix this dog thing. I'll be back.
Yeah, go ahead. And Patchwork says he worked on crew as a freelancer at the time he worked with the DP. Olga was early in her career and was really excited and super nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that changes.
Well, it could. But then again, some people are just nice, And which movie was this? If you were the director of photography, was it Hitman 47? That's a guess. That's a guess. That was a good movie.
No.
Timothy Oliphant.
I really liked it. A lot of people didn't, but I liked it.
Oh, Timothy Oliphant is amazing. He was great in Justified and Deadwood. If you've not seen Deadwood,
Justified was really good.
Warning on Deadwood. Very foul language. So just be prepared to hear a lot of words that, Nate and I pretty much are fluent in. But if you're not, you're going to be like, first time I watched it, I was like, I didn't even blink. I was like watching it. Oh, okay.
Come on, we graduate boot camp with a whole nother language when it comes to cursing.
When it comes to, well, I was in the Marine Corps and I'm from Jersey. So, I definitely am very fluent in profanity. But
freaked my grandmother out the first time I used the term dick skinners around her and she didn't know what I was talking about.
Nice.
Like, Grandma, that means hands.
Exactly. So the first time I watched that movie, my wife, she's from Jersey, but she's a little different than me when it comes to, level of profanity. I dial it down here, but I can, use it when I can speak profanity fluently. But when it came to that movie, I watched Deadwood, and I was like, okay, it didn't bother me. And my wife sat down, and in the first episode, she turned to me, she goes, what the fuck did you put on for us? Because it was extremely vulgar. It's very vulgar. So after the first couple episodes, though, you kind of grow numb to it if you're not already fluent in that. So first episode, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm back in Jersey. It was just the way we talked, but besides that, amazing characters, amazing, even though there's a lot of profanity, amazing writing, the talking dialogue is just really good. Not even talking about profanity, just the dialogue itself is great. And the characters were amazing.
No, I haven't seen Deadwood.
Great show.
My uncle was really into it back in the day. I just never got into it. Really like Justified, though.
Oh, Justified's great. Justified is basically a modernization of Deadwood. His same character, Seth Bullock in Deadwood. It's modernized for Justified and a lot less profanity, but it's very much the same type of character. And Seth. The interesting thing is how they took Deadwood, this historical period, and they made it. They blended it with fiction. And it was really cool how they took historical fact and they blended it with fiction and made a really cool story. And the whole Al Swearingen character and Seth Bullock characters just make the entire series, but everybody else as well is fantastic. Great story.
See, I always thought I would do well back in the Old West. I love my 6-shooter. Just go around, shoot anybody that bothers me.
Yes. Olga Kurylenko, she's a picked warrior chasing after all the Legionnaires. That was another movie that she was in. And then we've got, I don't think there is such a thing as profanity anymore.
Yeah, there is.
True.
My little boy, he understands daddy words and not daddy words.
Daddy words.
That he's not allowed to say daddy words. That's how we've, explained it to him, because daddy can't keep his P's and Q's. He dropped the F-bomb the other day, though. I gotta watch out
That is
for
the
that.
best when kids do that, though, because it's so innocent. That's
Yeah.
what makes it funny.
It was bad. One time we were going to church, and this is when he was younger. He had to be 2 or 3, so he wasn't at the age where we really could get across to him, stop. And he just dropped the F-bomb. And then we busted out laughing because it was funny the way he said it when he's like 2 years old. But he sees us react positively, so he thinks, oh, this is a good thing. I should keep doing this. And he's just like, F, 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 F. And it just tossing it out. We're like, no, stop. We're going to church. You got to stop. And we did everything we could to get him to shut up before we got to church, because we had to drop him off in the daycare, and we didn't want to get called out of the service for, hey, your 2-year-old is using a little too much profanity. He can't be in here around the other children.
Why the fuck are we waiting so long for communion?
Well, Mr.
Rogers, come and take your child home, please.
I didn't want to come back and find them trying to exercise the demon out of him or some shit.
Dude, why did you not start a YouTube channel called Neighborhood? Mr. Rogers Neighborhood.
I should have. Even I got to stop with the YouTube shit. My little boy wants to do a YouTube channel now. He'll come up to, yes, if he wants to tell me he's happy about something, he tells me I should smash the like button. He's too much into this shit. He's like, smash that like button and comments down below.
I saw him on the video doing that. That is great. I think it was on Facebook.
Yeah,
put that up. That was greatness.
But he thinks that terminology, and it gets worse when they play the ads, because especially when the political ads are on there, and they keep playing them over and over again, and they're catchy. Because there was a period of time where he kept coming up to us, telling us Linda Coleman is shady. Linda Coleman is shady. Dude, shut up! You can't keep saying this. You got to stop watching YouTube. But we want him to watch it, because when he's watching videos, he's watching stuff about the solar system and the human body. He knows more about the human body than most high schoolers know about it. He's awesome. Really great when it comes to this stuff. It's the stuff after and before that he's also retaining. It's the problem.
Well, it's a different way of learning. Like Kevin and me, we grew up and it was read a book, maybe watch a movie, read a Cliff Note. Do you know what a Cliff Note is, Nate?
Yes, I do. I use them.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they were still in existence anymore,
yes,
but
they were in existence.
That was how we pretty much got through school. Cliff Notes were like, hey, I don't want to read the book. It looks boring as hell. I'm going to read the Cliff Notes, and I'll just, hit on the high points. Smart teachers were, they caught on
wise to that. Yeah,
exactly. But when it comes to these kids today, I look back and I'm like, man, I'd love to grow up in today's world. You have the greatest research tool at your hands, the internet.
Yeah.
You can, hey, I want to learn why do planets turn? Why do they spin? Google it. Boom. You got a video on it. You got an hour-long explanation on it.
He can name the planets from the sun out to the end of the solar system in order and tell you which moons they have.
Question
that he knows.
Is Pluto a moon? I mean, is Pluto a planet or not a planet?
It's a planetoid.
Oh.
But that's actually what they've officially classified it as. But I still count it as a planet because it was a planet when I was a kid. And if it was a planet when I was a kid, that's what it is.
All I know is my very excellent mother just ordered 9 pizzas. So if anybody learned the solar system using that acronym, they'll understand that. Dan, you may not get that.
Somebody said Mongo. What is Mongo?
Whoa.
Mongo is my brother's
That's
nickname.
your brother.
Yeah. I was like, what is he talking about, Mongo? Is Mongo maps? What's a Mongo map, John?
Oh, I think they're talking about Pacific War.
I haven't played that one.
It
doesn't solo well.
No, you can solo it.
You can solo it.
chat stayed on topic, and they're on war games. The rest of us are talking shit.
We're going off on movies and hot chicks, and they're going on war games. What the hell, man?
Yeah, with the program.
My brother, he actually goes by Mongo. Like,
Yes.
that's his nickname. That's what he goes by. People know him as Mongo. And it's from that big freaking gingerbread cookie thing from Shrek.
Really?
Oh, see, I would have thought it would have been from Blazing Saddles.
No, that he tries to claim that it's Blazing Saddles,
Mongo.
but he was really big at the time. I mean, he's really big now. He's from that, and then that gingerbread cookies. Well, he is fat. I'm like a couple 100 pounds, and he's like 240, 250. So he's pretty big. Like, you can easily tell the difference between us. He's a solid big, but he's big.
Well, he's your twin, so you.
I think John's trying to say mounted maps because it's a mounted map. The new version of Pacific Wars mounted maps.
Oh, so not Mongo maps. I was like,
well, that was just announced by GMT, and it crossed the 500 mark before 6 hours was up.
Yeah, it's over 750 now. I think it's only 1,000 actually.
I was one of them.
It just takes so long to get from P500 accepted to P500 in my hand. It's like there's a 10-year period in between here.
Oh, look at that. We have another person that's just emerged.
God, I freaked out there for a second because I just saw hands come in.
That's my oldest in a t-shirt in t-shirt list, no less.
We have sci-fi here. We have look at all the effects that Kev brings to the show here. He's like,
I'm just trying to bring some out
of the map and back into
the games. I'm popping them up.
Don't do that when I'm a little blurry, man. It threw me off. Just all the.
Mongo is a word.
He's gonna get mad that I'm talking shit about him.
Oh, Mongo, big lots many. Why isn't he here? He was here like one show, and then he like flaked on you.
Who, my brother?
No, Alex Karras, who is the real Mongo. Your brother's the second Mongo.
You try telling him that. He'll pick you up and body slam you.
He probably would because he's bigger than me. But the thing is Alex Karras is Mongo. Blazing Saddles.
So Stigler says P500 happens while the game is still under development. Yes, I agree that the game is still under development. But I'm impatient. That's the problem. There's a handful of games that I've still got on P500, and I want to hit that button where it says buy, and I want to get it like today. I'm a little spoiled by that.
Well, the thing to keep in mind is when I talked to Gene, I think he mentioned it in the interview I did with him. There are 63 development teams within GMT. 63. Think about that for a second. How many other wargame publishers have 63 design teams working on games?
Shit, most of them don't have 63 people.
1, 2.
Yeah, so let's put that in context, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's not 63 employees, first of all.
Oh, no.
Certainly, and it's some dude in a garage working with a developer to help, right? So that's awesome that they have 63 games in the pipeline. It's nearly as many as Hollandspiel, right?
They're putting out 63 by the time that one comes out from GMT.
Yeah, right. Very different scale and different quality and all the rest of it, different styles and stuff.
Yeah.
My thing comes from the bad estimate, right? Because I think they always underestimate how long it's going to take between the game, being on P500 to game actually being delivered. And I'm one of those people. I would much rather you overestimate, like by far, or even just leave it as TBD. That way I don't have any false expectations in my head, because once I do, and you're saying, mid 2019, and then it's beginning of 2021 when the game delivers, it might be accurate because of everything that's happened, but my brain's still thinking, well, you were supposed to deliver this a while ago, Don't put the expectation out there. And I've not said this just about GMT. I've said this about it like all gaming companies, really.
Sure.
Estimate far, way far.
Right.
Because the customers aren't going to be mad if
Yeah, they will.
If they get it early, if they think they're getting it early, but they'll always be mad if they think they're getting it late.
Well, that's why it's so cool when you see companies do Kickstarters like Banter Nuovo, right? As an example, Italian company, they are going to make the game. Actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but they're going to make the game anyway. He uses his own money to print, publish, and make it. Then he gets the money, and they deliver early every time. He's never been late, right?
Which makes me happy.
Right. So that's really cool. But the game is much further progressed than most other games that go to a Kickstarter or whatever the case may be. And he's also not dealing with China and massive shipping. It's all local production in Italy or Germany or wherever it is they buy the stuff, the bits, the cubes and bits and pieces from, because they're a block game company. But I don't know. I get frustrated with MMP because of their system. GMT, they've got so many games coming out. I don't know how they manage what they do. They seem to do a pretty good job overall. But you're right. It does. Sometimes you're like, well, hang on. What was it? The Canadian MBT module. It got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because, Stalingrad 42 is more important because that's one of the owners, right? Well, it is. It's a great game, but it's also one of the owner's designs, right? So so other shit gets bumped off in preference for folks who are more important or more valuable in terms of revenue. So I certainly get that, but I don't have any problems with the way they do stuff, really.
I've never had a problem with their quality. Generally, the errata's always a non-issue. The components are good. Generally,
if they fuck it up, they own it, right?
Hitler's Reich.
There's always exceptions, right? But generally speaking, I've never been overly disappointed. I've always been happy with a GMT purchase. My only thing is just estimate far, and it just comes down to a mnemonic thing. Right, just that the way the mind works, that if you estimate too early and it's way past that first estimate is still in my mind. You know, like
what about estimating and then estimating and then not estimating far? You can talk Russian campaign.
What are you talking about?
I think there's something going on.
Constant press, but still through GMT.
Right. I think there's something going on there because Kranz is now at Compass, right?
Yeah, so I think that's part of it.
I think there's a political thing going on there. But here's the thing, right? So with P500, it's also a gauge. So they take a design and they go, oh, yeah, it's a Simonich thing. Sure, let's just put it up and we'll get 1,000 orders or 2,000 orders and we're done. But then when they get a relative unknown, they've got to put on P500 to kind of, gauge the interest. Are we going to take a year or 6 months or 2 years to get to 500? That then determines where it goes on the slot. So, and 500 is not the number; it's 750. But it's a way to gauge market interest. So they can then go, you know what? We've only got 400 orders. Off you go. Let's go back. And then once they get the 500, they're like, okay, we got them. That will pay to print 1,700 or 2,000 or 2,500 or however many they end up printing. Now let's go finish it, do the playtesting, do the artwork, get it, tighten the rules up. And so it's a pretty complicated model for a freaking niche, tiny baby industry, right? That sells 100,000 units a year, all told, from everybody, if that.
There's a lot of moving parts happening in that situation, which is some other companies I know, they have it as close to production as possible. It might not be right at production, but it's close. That way, when they do go to Kickstarter, it's right there. So they can deliver in 6 months because they're mainly waiting on production and maybe a final bit of playtesting, fleshing out a little bit of the rules. Problem is I don't think Kickstarter was really designed for that. It's become pre-order,
It has with companies like Simon and stuff like that, where they come in and they're like, we're going to give you 150 miniatures for $150. And people are like, "Oh, it's totally worth it." I'm going to get in on
Out of the game's
Zombicide
crap.
season 7. Well, like Zombicide, that is one of my guilty pleasures. I love Zombicide because Zombicide is perfect for just this. Hey, let's sit down, have some whiskey, have some beer, whatever, have some pretzels, and just throw dice and have fun because
Vampires.
Exactly. I've gone through a situation before. I mean, I've talked about this before. I think one other time where we were at a con and I forget what the hell it was. Room Morgue, I know that, but it was one thing where I had this power where I could kill extra guys with my chainsaw. And this dude got stuck behind us. And this is exactly what's so great about conventions. He got stuck behind us. He's like, "Oh no, man, I'm stuck behind you." We're like, "Don't worry, bro, we're coming to get you." And we come running back in, and I rolled really good. Like one of the few times in my life I roll good. And I just like slayed a shitload of zombies with a friggin' damn chainsaw because like I forget what the power was, but if you killed like one or two, you got like one or two extra or some crap. It was some power. So I'm like, holy crap. And we just literally laid down all the miniatures that when we killed them, we laid them down so we could see the carnage as we exited out before we pulled them back up and, reused them. And I was like, holy shit, look at the friggin' carnage. We were like laughing afterwards. After we saved the guy, we were all like high five. We're like, "Oh, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome." That is the thing that you can never get from video games. That is the social part of board games. That is just amazing, and it was just so much fun.
Unless you're playing teams, like my guys, I've got 3 boys, right? So they're all, right now they're playing, I don't know what they're playing. I think there's a new World at War, like Call of Duty, something that's a free beta trial. They're all up there playing in separate rooms, screaming at each other online, right? Having a blast, and with their buddies and all this sort of stuff. They've got Discord running on the side and 2 monitors, all this crazy technology. Yeah. And so they are, it's a different type of connection, which reminds me, I wanted to make a point from way back earlier on. You were talking about different learning styles of younger generations. I was talking to my 20-year-old. Is he 20 or 19? I don't know. Maybe he's 20.
You should know this.
Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It's okay. I think he's 20. So, but we were sitting outside talking, and I was reading a book, and he's watching a YouTube video. And I said, "Well, what are you watching?" He goes, "Well, I'm just watching this thing on Wagyu, Japanese Wagyu beef, and this guy grows the beef, right? And how this Japanese dude grows it at his house, and it's the most expensive Wagyu in the world. And the guy does 2 calves a year." I said, "Well, that's curious. How'd you come to find that?" He goes, "Well, I like watching all these videos." And he started showing me his playlist. So he's got the corn star, the guy that grows corn, right? So he's some dude up in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska or wherever they grow corn. He knows. I find out today he knows all about harvesters, how they work, like the soil composition for corn and water consumption, and just this massive amount of content, right? And Wagyu beef, I don't know where the hell or how Wagyu beef is made. I know it's in Japan, dude, but my point is that he's totally consuming data and learning, because I keep ragging on him to get his ass out of bed during this lockdown. Get up and read a book, man. Improve your mind, improve your body, improve your mind. And he's like, "Dad, shut up, man. I'm
be productive,
Dad. I'm learning my own way.
Look, Dad. Did you know that the harvester has 375 horsepower and does blah 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 blah?" Well, okay, I'll shut up. Time out.
He just learns the one fact to get you to shut up before he goes back to something more interesting.
Back to the game, right?
Yeah.
But it's curious anyway.
He's got like Fortnite going.
Right. I know that was a long sidebar, but I just wanted to mention that because it was interesting. Yeah.
Now, there's a good point Von Deacon brings up. And what hope do we have of ever seeing a redesign of Submarine by Avalon Hill? That's an old game right there.
Have you played it?
I've never played that one.
I've always wanted to play it because I love subs, which is kind of, I guess, I was a tanker, so it kind of ties into tanks because
yeah.
tanks you have visual, way more visual than subs do, but you're still fighting a similar battle. Subs would be super cool, and they are
but if
super
your
cool.
tank gets hit, you can get out.
Depends.
The sub gets well, generally speaking.
Yeah.
You get pierced with Sabo, man, there ain't gonna be nothing but spalding and fire inside that tank, so you're dead. I mean,
you're a splatter. Yeah.
You're gonna be just sucked out that hole.
I'd still rather be in the tank than the sub. There's something about being crushed by the water, man.
Yeah, that's what I think is so cool about subs. You're fighting the environment as well as the opponent, the enemy. And I think that is the ultimate cat and mouse game on the planet today.
Right.
The subs.
Yeah, real subs, like the real thing.
Lots of crappy games about subs out. I mean, there's a litany of very ordinary, not well thought out, and or boring sub games. So maybe Submarine from Avalon Hill was the shizzle, and just no one's ever replicated it.
Not trying to call them out, but where would you put Steel Wolves on that one? Because I've always been intrigued by it because it seems to have like so much like just quantity of stuff, and I like big stuff. But it seems like that might be all.
I'm not sure. I haven't played it. I haven't played any of them, right? But
you didn't play Hunters?
No.
The Hunters is not like Steel Wolves.
No.
Wolves.
Yeah, but Hunters is B-17 in a sub. I mean, you don't do anything. All you do is how many torpedoes do you want? That's the last decision you make, right? I mean,
RFN, roll for narrative.
Yeah, roll for narrative. Right.
But that's fine. Though. That's good.
That's cool. I didn't say it was bad. Just not for me, right?
No, Greg has come up with a great system that he's, just adjusted to different things. I mean, he's even got Zeppelins out there. And I remember when I was watching John talking about it on the Compass thing, I was like, there needs to be a Black Sunday scenario. If you're going to have a Zeppelins, there has to be a Black Sunday scenario. Right. You remember the old Black Sunday movie with Robert Shaw? At the Super Bowl, they were going to there was a terrorist attack with the Goodyear blimp at the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, I was like, we need to have a scenario.
I haven't seen any of these movies.
Yeah, it's an old. I mean, that literally is a 70s movie. Let's see if anybody in the chat remembers that. I'm going through the chat now.
All right. Well, I am going to call it here, guys, because I'm about tired, and it's a little later for me than it is for you guys.
And you had a little alcohol tonight.
Yes.
So happy hour is over for you.
It depends on if the wife's feeling frisky. Then happy hour.
TMI.
Don't live stream that, my friend. Don't live stream that, okay? Let's keep it family friendly. The Rogers household.
If I live stream that, I'm charging for it.
Well, like I always say, don't do anything I wouldn't do, but if you do, name it after me.
Yeah, no. All right. It was good chatting with you guys, though. I'm going to hop off.
All right, brother. Take care.
Peace, guys. Nice seeing you all. And I'm sorry, I'm blurry. Bye, guys.
Take care, brother.
See those eyes starting to squint.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where, it's kind of like he doesn't drink that much. So it kind of messes with him a little bit. But let's see. I've grown to hate the type of solo games like Steel Wolves. Why? Why, Custer?
Question why? Yeah.
And sub solo rules from the general is okay.
See, this is making me want to go dig out a $5 copy of that game and see what the deal is.
Which one?
Submarine for Avalon. You know what? I bet I have a scan of it here. Let's see.
Really? On Vassal.
Well, stuff, things.
Donald Sutherland, awesome actor.
Let's see if we have it here.
Von Deacon says Submarine is the best tactical game in his opinion. Didn't care for Steel Wolves.
Ever.
Well,
ever.
I think the difference is Steel Wolves was trying to give you the, I don't know what they would call it.
The campaign.
Yeah, I don't know what they would
Still
call it
the whole-
in Germany, but it would be like, in the US it'd be like, sub pack, whatever, submarine subcompact or whatever, submarine commander Pacific, or
Right.
I don't know what they would call it in Germany. Off the top of my head, I don't know. So you're pretty much running the Atlantic campaign if you're in Steel Wolves. That's my understanding. I've never played Steel Wolves, so I could be wrong. John
So
says,
submarine is a tactical level. Reminiscent says it's reminiscent of one-on-one duel in air war of World War One, complete with aces and acts of chivalry. But it was fought with no holds barred in the struggle in which a second's hesitation or lapse in concentration meant the difference between life and death.
ooh, sounds cool.
Let me see. It's collisions and reloading of torpedo tubes and diving and rising and launching torpedoes. 10 pages of rules. 10 and a half pages of rules.
Really? That's it?
And I'm getting advanced game. Advanced game then puts in another
3.
No, it's actually going it's cranking it out. There we go. Now we're talking another 7 pages, so that's not too bad. I'm going to imagine it's a blue map.
So sub 20 pages, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. Bunch of data cards, British surface data card, surface ships, American sub data cards, all in pink because it's Avalon Hill.
They love pink.
And let's these guys here. I've got it up on my other PC, so yeah, a bunch of battleships and stuff. And a blue and green map with a bunch of white numbers on it. It's horrendous looking. It's several maps. So it's quite large, but I guess you've got to sail around and find each other. Interesting. And the subs are 2 hex counters.
Wow.
So there you go. That's submarine,
Interesting.
Capsule comments. I can send you the PDF if you want to look at it. But,
Yeah, send it to me. John says, night, thanks. He's taking off. Friday night, it's like what? 10:30?
It's 10:30. What are we doing?
It's like, why are you in
bedtime? Gonna go roll dice after this. Stuff to do. Yeah, games to play.
John says he's not a Navy guy, but thinks carriers would be much more fun than what? No, subs, man.
Yeah.
Subs are stealthy. That's very, very tactical. Not that carriers are not, but it depends on the era. Nowadays, I mean, you look at Harpoon, back in the day, Harpoon was a really cool game. Tactical was, a few hundred nautical miles, whereas, back in the 40s, it was over the horizon. So like 12, 15 miles, whatever over the horizon is exactly. I don't recall off the top of my head, but you're looking at the curvature of the earth. So you're having a guess where everybody's going to move, and you can feint, and you can, so that aspect is really cool. But the hardest thing with tactical is when it comes to seeing things and making it more realistic is when we play tactical games, any tactical game for the most part, you're dealing with perfect information, something that the ground or sea commander never had the benefit of. That's the hardest part. And that's where it goes back to your sniper game. I think would be cool.
Right. Well, yeah, because you take out that perfect knowledge. A while back, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I think I tried doing some play-by-poll stuff. So I would post a article on my blog and have a poll and say, well, should formation A do option 1, 2, or 3? And should formation B do 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I give people choices and let the readers pick what to do. And that way it was just another way for me to experiment with, having a sort of a pseudo opponent that was kind of, I guess it's really kind of decision by committee, which is probably not a good thing. But
Well, I mean,
It
there's
worked.
no perfect way to do it because, you know, again, the best way if you're going to do any sort of tactical situation, the best way to do it is through a computer because the computer is going to run the AI and they're going to spit out a thing at you, and you're going to have to just adjust to it. But even then, it's still scripted because the programmers have designed a script for you. And there's nothing, at least to the best of my knowledge, that you can play solitaire that will be, that will be reactionary. The nearest would be the I totally went brain dead. The what the hell are the RPG type of games that they play?
Oh, you mean like
CIA runs them and all the Matrix games. Matrix games. Those will be those. I've always wanted to be in a Matrix game because, well, part of a team, because you're never one person. You're part of a team, and you may have a job within that Matrix, situation, because they'll say, okay, here's the overall situation. This is your job. This is your job. This is your job. So on and so forth. And then you work through the problem. And I think that would be kind of cool to kind of headshed all that and to deal with the problem. And of course, see what the referee kind of comes up with. But then again, you're also dealing with that referee's bias.
Yes. And what the, in the military Matrix games, it's a, there's a set of expected outcomes as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because they're kind of steering you towards a certain way of thinking, a doctrine.
Right.
And it's good and bad. It's good to understand how your doctrine works, but at the same time, okay, your doctrine under fire is going to fall apart. It is always going to fall apart. It is never going to be 100%. It may be 80%, but it'll never be 100%. Well, rarely be 100%. Because the enemy, because of human intervention, the human factor is the hardest thing to model. It is the absolute hardest thing to model in, any type of situation like that, because you never know how people are going to react. Some people may say, oh, screw this, I'm running away. Some people want to say, screw this, I'm staying. I'm going to die right here. This is my hill. This is my Alamo. And you never know. So that's the hardest thing.
And that's where, we call them AI or opponent code. Most PC games, when you play them, you learn what the way the AI reacts, right?
Yeah.
And what its tips and tricks are, and you work around it. So you end up just like playing an opponent. A certain guy is aggressive or very defensive or doesn't watch his flanks or whatever the case may be. So you play against him like that. And unfortunately, with a PC game, you can do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that in, I don't know, pick one of the games, but that a certain thing is going to happen on a certain turn, or they're going to react in a certain way when you do something. So you sucker the AI. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you switch it around, and so you don't end up getting the richer experience that you might get from a human opponent. I think because you've got that there's more subtlety and nuance than a pre-configured set of rules when A happens to B.
True. You and I have talked about playing like lock and load tactical, and maybe even trying to stream it if possible. And that's one of those things where the benefit of playing a computer game or a board game is I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try this time. I'm going to just run balls to the wall and screw you off, screw you up. You're going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. Which from a game standpoint, you'll be like, oh, this is kind of fun. And it makes a great narrative, and people watching will be like, wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Reality is totally different because 99% of the time, reality, no one's going to go run up the gut like that. No one's going to do that stupid stuff because you could really die. So that is, again, goes back to the narrative that games give us. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that they are games. They're not reality, because reality doesn't always work that way. And that's what makes situations like we talked. I don't know if you were on a show when we talked about it before, but Spears from Band of Brothers, when he ran through that German formation That was ballsy as hell. Ballsy. Right. And he ran back. I mean, it's just crazy. People think it's cool and go, oh, yeah, John Wayne in it. That doesn't happen all the time because people don't really want to die. Exactly. Computer game, it'll happen because, like, I'll respawn, or board game, I don't care. I'll keep going. But in reality, you're not going to do it. And that's one of the hardest things that you can't translate to a board game, and again, it goes back to the tactical thing. We always lean back to the tactical because that's where you get that connection, that personal connection to the counters and the experience overall.
Very much so. Yep. And it was interesting. Speaking of tactical, someone asked a question way back. Oh, there we go.
Which one?
No, I just looking at your comment about the chat that Custom put up about the Tokyo Express.
Oh,
have you played that?
I have not.
Yeah, well, dabbled in it. Haven't played it much, but
so Custer, why is that, in your opinion, the best solo design game from the start? Tokyo Express.
Yeah,
we'll go through the rest of the comments while
you
type yours or type your response. Let's see. I'm a little slow tonight. I've not gotten as much of the interaction as I like to get, but SSI was the be all and end all.
There you go. A lot of
Excel game. Excel game of submarine. Now, part of me goes, wow, that would be kind of cool. Part of me goes, holy crap, that sucks. Why would you want to turn a submarine, hide and seek situation into an Excel spreadsheet? But then at the same time, I go, yeah, makes sense. It's kind of one of those things,
movement, right? How do you find your enemy and all that sort of stuff? That's what was cool about City Fight. You could, because you had to search megahexes at a tactical squad level. That was pretty cool because you could actually pass each other on
and not realize it.
Yeah.
There was a game. I don't know how many computer games do you play, Kev?
A few, but I have many. I have played few. I used to play a lot, but
kind of the same way. I think there was an old game, if I remember correctly. This is going back at least 20 years. 688i. It's an old 688 submarine game. I played a head-to-head game a couple times. I played with people, and literally we had a time, where we'd say, okay, the scenario is 60 minutes, and literally we were hunting for 60 minutes, literally
no way,
looking for each other in subs. And then as we're like, okay, we're coming up on 60 minutes, we got to do something here. And, either one of us was going to make noise. There was going to be some cavitation or something like that to try to draw a shot and then return a snapshot based on that. We got into that. Both of us shot at each other. Neither one of us hit. And I remember afterwards in the chat, we're like, that was so tense. That was one of the most tense 60 minutes I've ever played in a solitaire game. Even
though you saw nothing, game. Right?
And we saw nothing. It was the tense, like, oh my God, where are they? Now imagine doing that 24/7 out in the sea. That's what it's like to be a submariner. So, that's kind of, obviously not shooting at each other, but still, it's the cat and mouse.
So I worked with a guy. I worked for a CEO who was a boomer. He was a nuclear engine officer. So
nice.
He said it was the most miserable, whatever the sign up period is, 3 years of his life. But he said, you're underwater 3 to 5 months at a time.
Yeah.
They would come into port in Portugal and blow all their money and go lay on a beach and then go get back in, and they got resupplied, and then they'd be off and underwater for another 90 days or however long it was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he hated it, right? Because it's just hard. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
And he was a big dude. He was 6'4". So
wrong body size.
Yeah. But we used to work off of his plan of the day. He would have a plan for every day. That's how we did things in the Navy.
Yep.
And that's how we did things in the company.
What's the POD? That's the way you
exactly.
live. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, having a plan of the day is actually great if done in the right way. But at the same time, it can be kind of annoying. But if you kind of go with the military mindset of, hey, here's our plan for the day. Here's the plan of the day. We got to get this, and done. This, and this, all these things done. You get them done by 11 o'clock. Guess what? You're done. You skate till 4:30 or 5 o'clock, whatever. And that's it. Because you got what needed to be done. But Patchwork brings up another one here. Have you guys played, say, Enemy Action or Den or anything from that series? If so, what do you think of the series? I've got Enemy Action or Den, not played it, but I have played Butterfield's D-Day at series, and it's really good. Now, EWO, not so good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Dens. And I'm not a fan because I don't like pulling the chits for the combat results. I just something about it just didn't grab me. But I could see why people like it. It's 3 games in one. It's a pretty attractive package, map aside. But I can see it's got value there. But I just haven't put the effort into it yet. So that's my 2 cents on that guy.
Patchwork played 688. Awesome game. Almost like Silent Hunter 2. That was and 3. There's 2 great computer games right there. But
yes,
going back
I used to know Silent Hunter. Yeah.
Oh, you play that?
I used to have that a long time ago.
Oh, that's greatness. That stuff you can get lost in that game. Yeah. You could really get lost in that game. You watch that, you play that while watching Das Boot, you're like totally hardcore.
You're hooked, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But going back to EA or Den, question for you. What do you have against having a chit pull determination for the outcome of combat?
Oh, geez.
I know it's a small question with a lot of answers.
Yeah, it's in that game, it was the way, it was just the interaction with the chit. I think more than there's a certain size pool for a start, and then the chits have a range of answers on them depending on what the circumstances were. So I just felt like it, whatever I was doing didn't matter as much because it was a chit pool versus if I drive my odds up to I don't know, because they had different results based on whatever your odds were. So, I don't know. I don't like pulling the chit to get my answer. I want to roll a die or see the DRMs. I just felt
little deterministic,
a little tedious. It just the whole exercise felt a little tedious to me in terms of the gameplay.
Yeah,
it wasn't as engaging as other solo games I've played. So
that's the thing about chit pull. That is, I love chit pull. I mean, it's just a great mechanic.
Or for activation or something like that. It's great, right? Certainly.
But for determination, it is good and bad. Now, where it's great, fantastic, is Conflict of Heroes. I like how I attack you, Kev, and then you pull a chit to determine, or a counter in the chit pull to determine what the attack resulted in.
Right.
And I don't know it.
And you don't know.
Exactly. Right. Because when I shoot you, I'm like, okay, we know perfect, information. Oh yeah, I killed him. He's good. Okay, now I can run over there. In real combat, I don't know if I really killed that tank. I don't know if I really killed that crew or that squad.
Right.
They just went silent. Did I really kill them? Or am I going to move up 10 yards and you get hammered? And that's where I think it's brilliant. That's where the Conflict of Heroes series is really brilliant, is you don't know until you go there and engage again or try to engage. And you're like, oh, yeah, they're already dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Solo watch, Tim Korchnoi, Bare Bones Wargaming. Very interesting, unless he starts singing. Whoa.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't
We
know he sang.
We don't sing. Toad array is in quickly referencing or referring to the manual for sonar signatures. Yes, toad arrays are key to make sure that you are getting below the thermal layer. And Von Deacon says he has to go. Thanks for the happy hours. Everyone have a great weekend. And absolutely, I mean, that's the whole point of this is we're all stuck inside. So let's have some fun. Block games, Russia, World War II that you wouldn't think, but he had a system. Which one is that?
Let's go back up. What is he saying?
What? Stigler is saying blocks are for infants.
Ooh, wrong. Bad Stigler. Bad
Stigler. No, blocks are the only way without a referee you can have fog of war.
Yeah.
Aside from having like the little hidden counter marker on top of your counters, but
I've got quite a few block games I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, human, when you have a stack of counters, I don't care who you are, you're going to knock them over. People are going to get a view at what's in that counter stack.
Right.
When you have blocks, no one knows what the hell you got.
Right. That was the great thing about Fields of Despair, because at certain points in the game, it lets you reorganize your front line, so you can move stuff around and all that memorization that you did.
I know he's got this here, and now I don't know where they are.
Now you don't know anything. Now, did I really move anything? I'm not really sure. So I love that about that game. That was great.
Did I just go back and forth like this a few times and screw with you? That's where it kind of becomes like chess, and that's the chess part that's fun. Yep.
That's a good game, by the way. I like that game. Yeah.
Now, you also like, what was it? What was it? Ventinuovo's Stalingrad game. What was it? Stalingrad. I have 42 on my head.
Right. Inferno.
That's it. Now, you like that. I played it like 2 or 3 times. I played the solo. I thought it was cool. I thought it was effective for playing a solo game, but at the same time, I thought, it's really not the Stalingrad experience.
Right, because it's kind of the whole approach and then the attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also randomized reinforcements, so it's not structured historically.
Yeah.
And I think I think though, it reminds me of the Gettysburg block game that I forget what it's called, that has the randomized arrival times.
Mm-hmm.
It came out, was either Columbia or Worthington, or one of those guys. But do you know what I'm talking about? That game?
I don't. No,
I'm not resonating. Okay. Anyway, so
I kept thinking about was it Berge did one?
No,
150th anniversary, or it wasn't his.
It was a block game, but
it was block.
The point about Stalingrad was there's a theme to the thing, and that is massive attrition and a lot of grind and a lot of pain for both sides.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, no one really knew who was coming and when, and how many reinforcements were going to get across the river. And the Russians were doing things that were a little unorthodox, and it was a desperate battle. And I think the game forces that theme through the randomized reinforcements, the deck running out on you. When the deck's out, you're done, right?
Yeah.
There are a couple of leader counters that you put into it. If they come up, then the death rate for the Germans just goes ballistically exponential. So that makes it a more difficult game to play as well. So it builds up that tension of needing to drive forward against an AI that, while it's just a D6 roll, it really to me, it was so sublime how it worked that I was very impressed with it. And I played that thing 7 or 8 times. It's a really good game.
I've got, I forget which ones I got. Leningrad and Moscow. Or Moscow. I think it might be Moscow and then Stalingrad. Because Stalingrad to me is like, I'm infatuated with Stalingrad like I'm infatuated with EWO. Obviously, the Marine Corps is infatuated with EWO because EWO is historic, which is why D-Day at EWO was such a disappointment, because it was just, they they stepped away from the DDAT series, and they took away the fire dots on the map, and they put it on 8.5 by 11 paper. It's like, really? Why would you do that?
Right.
You know, it's like Butterfield's system is brilliant, and why would you, you know, step away from that and do it on a little regular sheet of paper? It's like, no, I want this. I want it on that giant map. It gives me a better visual representation of what I'm facing. Even though you don't know, you can still at least try to guess. Okay, here's where the bigger threat areas are. Just like a commander would on the map based on his intel that he gets from the field. He would be able to paint that picture, and that's what that does for you. It tries to paint that picture for you. So, although the difference is, from a gamer standpoint, that map is always static. So you always know, hey, this is a bad spot, this is a good spot, whatever. Whereas in combat, it's totally shifting. You know, I mean, you would expect, oh, this is going to be a bad spot over here. Well, guess what? Those guys pulled back and went over here, and now this is a really heavily fortified spot. And that's where, again, we go back to the tactical discussion we had earlier. Tactical is always changing. You know, and that's where the battles are won and fought, is at the tactical level, and that's where I think is the most drama from the gamer perspective. You know, operational is great from the mental exercise. Oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move these units here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and mathematically, we're going to win. Tactical is where the battles are really won, because it comes down to the personal determination of the troops on the line. And operational is more the geeky, nerdy numbers crunching, you know, which is cool.
Yeah, but there's also a bit like that. There's also the maneuver aspect.
Yes,
I like about it as well. So I love that space to
move a shitload of units.
Right. How am I going to do this and outfox the guy? So I'm playing a game of Brazen Chariots right now. Doing the campaign. And you know, the guy I'm playing against, he made a mistake and split two formations up and sent them up two separate roads. I dumped two, I guess, battalions, basically, two different divisions, but not a full division, on each formation individually. Chewed his ass up, killed an entire formation in BCS, which was really hard to do. And then just second activation, moved over to his armor, and now we're going at it. And I've got two Panzer divisions versus his one, and I've isolated him, right? So that can't really, you can do that to a certain degree in tactical. Yeah, but to get that sort of operational, I love that kind of gameplay, because it's so, what is this guy thinking? What's he going to do? I've got a blog post on it that's going to come once we're another 2 turns down, so he can't change his plan, that I've already written about why I did what I did. And here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I think he's going to do. And here's what he did. And here's what happened. And hopefully it'll turn out. See, that's what's brilliant about the content you put out, is because you'll play a game, whether it's solitaire or, you know, you've done it after you played against an opponent, you'll have the counters already out. No one's seeing anything happening, but you're seeing the after effects, and then you're discussing it, and then you're walking through the parts of what happened. And it's like kind of cool. You're doing AAR right there verbally. And you're like, if you watch the map, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I see where that went on. And the hard part, though, for a lot of people is latching on to what happened and stuff like that, because you're seeing the after effects. But then again, it's like a documentary. You're only seeing after effects, and you're talking about what happened during. But I think that's what's cool. And you know, going back to our earlier discussion, DNL with Deadly Northern Lights, you've been covering that in really good detail. So you're getting a lot of people a lot of idea of how the game works, and you know, what happens. And you know, the joke is Denmark, and I hate to pick on Denmark because I love Denmark because they have one of my favorite bands, Volbeat. I love Volbeat, so they have one of my favorite bands. But man, they fold like a cheap suit in that game. Oh, dude, it's so. I mean, it was so bad, and that's why I said to everybody, I'm going to redo this, not because I wanted to redo the role. We're going to keep the role, but I'm sure the Danes could have done better. and that's what I wanted to show, is that they weren't complete chicken shit sons of bitches and quit. So anyway, yeah.
So we got one here from Custer saying, very true, John. I am playing the Bull Run scenario of across 5 April and reading the Bull Run books at the same time. Often for me, an opponent just gets in the way. I'm not sure if
talking about solo play, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing.
Sidebar conversation going on.
Yeah, it probably was. Now, that's where a victory awaits and a victory denied is just one of those games that is, I think, is one of the best games for playing for fun. Now, it's not historically accurate, but you know what? When you want to play solitaire, that shit pull mechanism and everything, it's just like, wow. You know, it's just, it's a great, you know, 2 games. It's 2 great games, and they got the third one coming out if it ever hits the pre-order number. Victory Awaits, I think it is. And it's great because you can play it solitaire and you can just play and have fun. And with the chit pull, you can activate all of your units and just like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. And then you're like, oh, now I got to react. You know, I got to activate these guys and I got to react to this. And it is in my opinion, is one of the best solitaire systems for anybody wanting that operational aspect of gaming. Is the victory of or awaits, whatever, you know, denied. Victory is what I call the scenario series.
The unsung little fun one in that is a victory lost that was in the magazine. It's a World War I game on Tannenberg.
Oh no, Victory Loss is that's the box game. I got
lost. Wait, it's a
Tannenberg. I'm not sure that which one that is.
Is that called a Victory something?
Now World War One, I'm not really big on.
Well, I wasn't either. It came in the magazine. It's like, I'll just set it up. It can't be that. It's because it's all the same rules, right?
Yeah.
But it's a relatively large map, very sparse counter set. And so there's once again, a lot of maneuver, but you got the chip pull. So really was fun to play. And you were just trying to work out what the hell to do. And you had some interesting mechanics going on. So I enjoyed that a lot. Now I have to find it.
Now I got a question for you and for the audience. World War One. What is your feeling on World War One as far from a gamer aspect? I'm not talking about historical. I'm talking about from the gamer aspect. To me, World War One, and I hate to say this, and this is no disrespect for anybody who fought in World War One or to the historicity of World War One.
It's okay. They're not here.
It is one of the least I guess you say entertaining, but it's one of the least I don't want to say entertaining. That's not the right word, but it does not attach me. I don't feel an attachment to World War One like I do World War II, or, you know, my preferred thing is modern hypo World War III, or just pure modern is what I love. But World War One just seems so, because it seemed very static as a war.
Right. Just hang on with me. Well,
sure.
Let's see what everyone has to say. I'm just trying to find this game now that I've got it stuck in my head.
So type in the comments, everybody. I know we got people here.
Victory Complete.
Victory Complete. I've never even heard of that game.
Battle of Tannenberg, 1914. It's really pretty interesting stuff. So what do let me think.
So it's the same system as the Victory, denied and lost.
Yes.
Really? Yes. Now, how does that? Now, with the activations, are you going across no man's land, or is it just point-to-point movement, or how's it?
No, it's hex and counter, but it's at the same scale, so it's divisional or brigades or whatever. Depends, right? I think this is divisional. So there's no man's land. There's no fixed line, so you're moving down roads and across terrain and over rivers, and it's a really interesting sort of.
So it's real operational then. It's not at the
how the battle comes together, right? And as far as World War One goes, I guess my general view is colored by history, and I feel like World War One was a tragedy of industrialized murder that was a failure by leadership to adapt to technology change. And they threw away the principles of operational theory, right? Operational maneuver theory.
Yes.
Which they all had sort of seen what happened in Crimean War and in the American Civil War, and then turned operational theory into a science. And that's like, let's have 47.25 tons of shit here and 4,000 guys there and do a barrage and all this tech, this minutia, and they missed I think they got away from the maneuver and they forgot what weapons could do, because they knew what weapons could do.
Yes.
We had all these battles against third world countries, the colonial powers did, and they slaughtered people, right? So they knew that machine guns could kill a lot of people, but they assumed that their morale and elan was going to be better. And so therefore they could march, they could send 400,000 guys in and they'll just capture that next 40 yards. And they didn't. They died horribly. So I don't enjoy playing very many World War I games at all.
Yeah. I agree with Andrell. World War I doesn't do anything for me at all. Now, there is the one game that I do want to try, although I'm kind of, it's diceless, and I know this may sound really kind of almost petulant, but I don't know, diceless games just feel weird. It just feels weird because I'm a war gamer. I want to throw dice, but Paniski has the Devil Dogs at Bellawood. So I'm partial to that. Marines, Bellawood. So it's like, that's where we got the leather nickname, or the Devil Dog name, a nickname from the Germans. We fought like Teufelhunden. So I'm kind of interested in that. And I saw it at WBC a couple of years ago. So I was like, wow, it does seem kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm like, it's World War I. I just don't have that attachment to World War I. I think that's where World War II games, why they're such big sellers, because it is the grandest scale conflict in our world history. When you look at it.
What was the name of the World War I game you were just talking about?
Devil Dogs at Bellawood.
Oh, okay. Is that a Tiny Battles? Okay.
Tiny Battle, not Tiny Battle. Worthington.
Okay. Oh. Oh well.
You know that one?
No, I don't know the game, but Worthington.
Industrialized Murder says it all. That is really now a great way of talking about World War I. There is a fantastic movie, and I'm not big into World War I at all, but there is a fantastic movie, The Lost Battalion. Has anybody seen that?
Oh, that sounds familiar. I'm on my
Ricky Schroeder.
I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Ricky Schroeder, otherwise known as Rick Schroeder in this movie. He was, they kind of changed his name up. If you have not seen it, I actually know for a fact it is for $5 at Walmart right now, because I picked up a copy of it for a friend of mine. I had gotten a box set of AMC movies. I think it was AMC that did these. AMC movies years ago at a store. And I got like Shackleton Expedition, and I got, this one, A Lost Battalion. Fantastic movie. I saw it when it was on AMC, and then I saw it on DVD. Really, 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 really good. Worth buying. If you can get out to Walmart and pick it up for $5, and it's actually in the $5 rack right now, because I picked up a copy for a friend of mine at work who I loaned. I said, dude, you got to watch this movie. He watched it. He was like, wow, that was really good. And so a couple weeks ago, during this whole pandemic thing, at the very beginning of it, I went to Walmart and I was like, I'm gonna see what movies are out, because I'll probably be stuck at home. I'm gonna watch some TV. It didn't turn out that way, but I grabbed a couple things, and one of them was Lost Battalion for $5, because I was like, I'm gonna give this to my buddy Bobby when I get back to work, because he'll enjoy it, and he's already seen it, but I know he'll want a copy of it. And he's like, oh, cool. And I texted him a picture. So, dude, look at, I picked up a copy of it. He was like, oh, I can't wait, because he saw it already. If you've not watched it, go spend $5. It's totally worth it. Rick Schroeder is really good, and it's based on a true story. And it's kind of sad, when you see the situation of it. And that's the one thing I always came away from World War I versus World War II is and I'm not knocking the sacrifice of World War II, but it seemed like there was a lot more waste of life in World War One that was unnecessary. Now it goes back to your industrialized murder point.
Have you ever listened to the Dan Carlin series on World War One?
No.
You know who Dan Carlin is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a 5-part series podcast, and I think every episode's 1.5, 2.5 hours, and it is if you all you want to know about World War One, pretty much, and all you want to hear about it, you listen to that, and you can be done with it. And that's why I have a hard time with the games. I like Fields of Despair because it's kind of a strategic level almost game, and it's okay. And that Tannenberg game I talked about is good, and I played that funky system with the triangle, the hexagons. The terrain is split into triangles. I forget what the name of the system is now.
Not familiar with that.
It's a World War One series. It's huge. It's got the Schlieffen plan as one of the modules. I played the Tannenberg version of that, and we enjoyed it as a group. It'll come to me in a second. I'm hopeless with these series names tonight.
Is that the one by Decision?
No, it's a one-off publication. The guy was going to make a whole series of them. He made 10 or 15 different World War One modules that all link together, can all link together.
Yeah,
but it's an incredibly grinding game system, but smaller, but also cool.
It's kind of like that Death Ride system. Sounds kind of like the Death Ride system.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Because I know you started touching on that, and I never had seen or touched or anything the Death Ride system till Consim Dallas, and I looked at it was a Guadalcanal or whatever they had. I looked at it, I was like, oh, I'm kind of tempted to get this, but I was like looking at it going, well, no, I probably no. I would rather spend my time on modern, putting that much effort into the detail as the Death Ride for World War II. That is detailed. That is a very detailed system. Man, those counters are kind of ugly. Just personal opinion.
Right. Well, they're busy, and there's so much math. It's just, and it's just, I really want to like it. I think there's lots of good stuff going on there, but the rule book's now up to like 100 and some pages, and there's all these optional things and radio lines aside, and come on, it's just too hard. It's less fun than it could be. So
it becomes work at that point, and it's like, okay, I'm here for the fun, not the work. I don't mind the work, I don't mind putting effort, but I have a day job.
Really, right, exactly.
And that's very true. Patchwork, Ricky Schroeder's character was based on a real person. I mean, this is a real situation, and the guy committed suicide after the war, which makes this story sadder, but you can see why when you see the movie. It's a really screwed up situation, and Rick Schroeder did an amazing job. I mean, really, he just knocked it out of the park.
Knocked it out.
Yeah. Dan Carlin stuff. He's the only content creator of game, movie, etc. that ever got me interested in World War One.
Yeah. If I would encourage you to take the time to download those podcasts and listen to them. They're extraordinarily good, and all of his stuff is really good. Actually, even his. If you haven't listened to all of his stuff, you should. Just especially he talks about the use of nuclear weapons and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't buy his books, but I would certainly listen to his podcast.
Now, Jim brings up a good point. He says, I just lost my screen here.
I'm trying to find 10.
Because I'm screwing around. He says, 10 versus 60 million dead. Hard to see World War One as the charnel house if such things are to be compared. Now, that's a good point. But at the same time, when you look at World War One versus World War II, I'm not a history major, so I could be totally wrong. But World War One versus World War II. World War II was the true, absolute, almost a global war. It was almost a global war.
Right.
World War One was it was a world war, but it was still condensed into a tight space.
Yeah.
And if you look at this 60 million, 20 million alone in World War II were in Russia. So it's like, and that's, including their dead versus them killing themselves, killing each other, like we were talking earlier with Enemy at the Gates type of stuff, and Stalingrad and all that stuff. But still, the brutality of it, there was ground to be gained in World War II, whereas World War One was like, okay, you're here. All right, let's jump up, let's blow the whistle, jump up and try to go across, no man's land and get shattered along the way to try to get an extra 5 yards.
Right.
And that's where I think at least from the World War One gamers, standpoint, that's where we see the game at. I'm not well versed on it historically as other people are, so I could be wrong, but that's the way a lot of World War One gamers see it. Go, do I want to kill 10,000 guys to go 5 yards?
Right. That game system I was thinking of was called the De Weltkrieg.
No, I'm not familiar with that at all.
It's got a orange and yellow label with photographs. It's on BGG, De Weltkrieg series. So it's 2, 4, 6, 7 modules in it, 10 modules in it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big.
Definitely a lot of effort put into it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's a unique system too. So good, but doing the main Western Front stuff is monster stacks and 1 hex forward, 1 hex back type of thing. So it doesn't look.
That's a good question for you. What is your opinion of monster stacks?
Anything over 5 counters is a monster stack to me these days. I mean, it's just I shouldn't have to dig through stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. And I don't mind info counters. I can deal with that, right?
Well, yeah, admin counters are separate. Yeah,
but I'm talking about, so someone said to me, "Oh, I'm for Deadly Northern Lights. That's just stacks too high." Well, it's Königsberg or something, or Kaliningrad. It has 3 naval fleets and 4 divisions and paratroopers and all. So there's some big stacks because they all start there. They all start at that 14-kilometer hex, but they all move out after that, and that's the last time you see a big stack, unless I put it on the map just to make it look cool. So,
you had like 40 damn counters sitting there. I was like, wow, dude, that's awesome.
Look at all those counters. I want it.
But at the same token, what's that stack going to look like in 2 or 3 turns? Because one of the things, going back to the brilliance, in my opinion, of Next War series is it really does show the, when you want to talk about Charnel House, World War One does not hold a candle to modern, because you can throw out a shit ton of platforms and a shit ton of troops and they're going to be waxed pretty fast, because the one thing we've done is become very efficient at killing each other. So our weapons platforms now, it's like you go out there, I got 30 units, well, I come back with 7. It's like
I mean, the first time you play the full version of Next War Korea or whatever, and you're like, hang on a second, it's turn 2 and the South Koreans and the Americans are in Pyongyang, and there are 40 dead divisions. What? That's two or 3 turns. I think turns for a week. I don't know yet now. That's a lot of dead people, right?
It is, but it's also, when it comes to the accuracy of North Korean weapons platforms, I'm not really 100% believing that, because I think they're, if it came down to it personally, if North Korea got stupid and there was a war, it would be 7-8 days and we're in Pyongyang and that's it. It's because that's my opinion, but from a game standpoint, it's like 7-8 days, it's boring, so let's kind of crank it out a little more. But either way, the platforms today are very efficient, and it depends on how much China got behind North Korea, to just like in the Korean War, as to how things would be. But either way, the platforms today are very proficient in killing people, and that's where you said, you have 40 divisions are gone. They're combat ineffective.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Deadly Northern Lights. I was messing around with the missile combat in the naval combat phase of that game, and I looked at these crappy little frigates and destroyers, and we did one round. You get one round of missile fire. They had there were 5 ships. They had 34 factors of missiles versus 12 or 15 ships, of which 4 or 5 were just transports. The Russians had 14. So a 2-to-1 advantage. And oh my gosh, did they just rip the Russians a new one, right? I mean, we sunk 2 battalions worth of troops, and you just messed up frigates and destroyers, and it was carnage.
Yeah.
And they're all bodies in the water, right? It's messy stuff. So,
yeah.
And then you throw in, gun combat after that. Then you do an airstrike, and the Navy kind of limps along and deposits its Marines, what's left of them anyway.
Well, that's the thing that people don't think about today. Like, if you look at today's wars that the United States has been in, we're going on 18 years, almost 19 years of unending conflict with Afghanistan, Iraq, stuff like that. Low intensity conflict like that, like insurgency and stuff. You're not fighting a nation state. You can't conquer territory and bend them to your will, and boom. So you're going to have a longer battle versus World War I, World War II, where it's like, okay, hey, it's me and Kev versus each other. Okay, one of us gives, and that's it. You're going to always have somebody that's going to pop up somewhere, sometimes behind you, whatever. And that's what makes, the conflict today much more different than it was before. And Custer, you pointed out, Custer brought up a good point. He says, maybe the outcomes of the wars, 10 million died and nothing was settled. In fact, it just sets the stage for World War II. So 10 million died for no real reason, and 60 million died to settle something, which that's a very valid point.
Right. Yep. Well, now we kind of get into politics and the rest of it.
I know the historical, political aspect, which is a little beyond wargamers.
And all the rest of it, right? Who, these imperial powers want to control this stuff, right? And that's ego. That's all that is. It's just ego and power, right? So let's go to war because you're my people, and I'll use you as a tool to acquire what I want, or get what I want, or resolve the problem the slight I've been given. It used to be, a slap in the face and a sword fight. Not anymore. Now we're throwing bombs at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
John brings up, he says, his impression is in the 1920th century, both the U.S. and Germany had the world stage at their fingertips. Germany had the issue that everyone was in their way. Americans, not so much.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's now after World War I, it can be argued the Germans got the short end of the stick, and then you had the Weimar Republic, and then which led to Hitler rising, and which led to World War II. So there's a good argument there. But at the same time, it's like, why would anybody want to believe in a nut job? But history is 2020. Hindsight's 2020. We can look back and say, wow, that guy was nuts. But at the time, if you're a German, you might say, yeah, he might be a little crazy, but I didn't expect them to be that nuts, because when you're taking literally not barrels, but wheelbarrows full of cash to go get a loaf of bread because of hyperinflation,
right?
That's what can lead to war. And that's where the political aspects of games is interesting to explore, because it's abstracted out, but still there's a lot of deep impact on people that, we take for granted when we play these games.
Which is one of the good things about some of the card-driven games that are politically oriented and kinetically oriented, right? So there's the politics and strategy, then there's kinetic actions, and I'm thinking of Labyrinth and games and stuff like that. I'm not a huge player of them, but I certainly appreciate how they tie strategy and tactics and politics together, and they build a cool story.
Yeah, there's a lot less kinetic action in the coin games. There's a lot more, I I don't know what the term to use, but like polymaneuver, I guess you could say it's more political maneuvering than it is direct kinetic action. Because me, when I get into war games, I'm like, yeah, I like the political. I love coin. Don't get me wrong. But coin is kind of like one of those, yeah, I like exploring that, but I'm just like, I just want to punch someone in the face. I just want to go for kinetic action. That's where I feel at home. The political side is like kind of an exploration phase. It's like, that's cool, but let's go fight. That's just that's just where I'm at. So but it does open a lot of avenues to explore, going, well, if this happened, this could have happened, there's a lot of waves, whereas kinetic is very direct. I'm going to come up, punch you in the face, you're going to feel it, and you're either going to submit or you're going to run away. One of the two. That's what kinetic warfare is. Whereas political stuff is, I'm going to try to bend you to my will, either pay you off or pinch you in with economic
two
stuff.
Two very different things, because politically you can be pissed off at the end result and not do anything about it. But if you're in a fist, if anyone's ever been in a fist fight and you get punched in the face, it freaking hurts.
Yes.
Right. And so you walk away going, I don't want to do that again.
No.
So you I'm okay with that. He can have my burger and my seat. Right. So, I'm not saying that happened.
No, that's true. That's true.
Example, right?
First time. I mean, a lot of time. There's a lot of people that still, at this day, and good for them, they've never been punched in the face, and you get that literal explosion in your head. You see stars, and you're like, "Well, the cartoons actually kind of got it right." You get that. You literally feel like Hiroshima just went off in your head the first time you get punched in the face, and you're like, "Whoa, crap! This does suck." But then you have to. It depends on your personality whether you go, I submit, or fuck you, man, I'm coming back at you harder. That's the tactical side. Whereas the coin is like, Patchwork saying here, I feels coin. The later coin games are trying to fit the system, the conflicts that don't quite fit anymore.
Yeah, it's not coin anymore, right? It's
they're trying to explore it. They're trying to expand it, I think, a little bit from what it is.
It's a game system.
Yes.
For multiplayer, card-driven resource management is what it is, really, because you put a block, I play a card, put blocks down, or take blocks up, and then you play cards and put blocks down and take blocks up. That's the essence of the game in a multiplayer format. And then you work out, there's this tying together of the opponents, like we're kind of joined at the hip in Vietnam, these two guys, but you both have your own agenda. So it's very finely tuned. That system can be applied to anything. You can make anything up, from Gandhi to some medieval bullshit to some,
which they've done.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, Roman stuff, or Arthur, King Arthur, whatever, because it's just a system. It's like OCS, but for cards, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, Patchwork's saying he can understand saying a coin game on the Troubles, but a lot of them don't make sense. Now, the Troubles is actually, I think there's a game in development on the Troubles.
That's
but the others, like Colonial Twilight, Brian is just, I think Brian Train is really ahead of the curve when it comes to understanding insurgencies and counterinsurgency from a game standpoint, and making a 2-player game makes it even better, because now you're like, okay, well, I'm not playing these two factions against these two factions, but you can play 2-player. And Liberty or Death, for example, I think is a great 2-player game. I love the game. I'm not as enthralled with it as a 4-player game as I am a 2-player game.
Right.
Fantastic 2-player game.
But it's not a counterinsurgency game, right? It's this game system applied, because
it is. But you can argue that, which is true, the American the rebellion in America was an insurgency.
It started out as that, but it ended as being armies fighting each other. So which I'm all cool with. It's all good.
Yeah.
Right. What I think is even better from Brian in his coin, doctrine and almost theology, right?
The Hollenspiel games.
The District Commander.
Yeah.
I unfortunately had to pack that up. I only got like 2 turns in the game, but I would blown away. It's like, whoa. And I took photographs, made notes. I'm coming back to that to reset, because it not only amazing narrative, but the choices, the delicious choices that you have to make. Nothing helps you and everything hurts you, but some things help a little bit. Right.
I'm looking right now to see if those are on Vassal, because I think they are.
Ooh, that would be interesting. See, now that'd be something we could play. That'd be kind of
because that's something that is very difficult to play solitaire. I don't see them on thing, but that's something where I kind of, I did the preview on the game and I kind of set it up and kind of poked around at it. Not really played it. That's a game that's very difficult to play solitaire. You can, but you really got to go into it with which I kind of generally do. I'm going in to explore this game. I pretty much do that with every game I play. I just like poke at it and see what happens. If you go in and playing solitaire, going, like, okay, yeah, I understand it now. I see what he's doing here. I see his design philosophy. I see how this is all working. What his intent is. Now, when you play with another player, it's a totally different game, because when you play solitaire and you're playing both sides, you're exploring it. What does it do? When you play against another player, that's when you really get into this is for reals now, which is kind of cool.
Playing for all the donuts, right?
Yes. And I think that's a great series, and I'm glad Hollenspiel has it. And I have not played the original. I still have it. I just not played it. The folio binned in that he's got. I've got his folio games from, was it
One Step?
Was it One Step or Decision? One Step did it with the folios where they did binned in and all those others. Mm-hmm. I've got those, just never played them. And I've looked at them, kind of poked around at them, but I've never actually played them. So it's, like I asked him, I said, is binned in the same? He goes, no, totally different. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. So now I got both, and I got two different games. So it's kind of cool to.
It's binned in with the one with the Green Berets.
Yes.
Yeah, I played that once. That was a very cool game. I like that too. Yeah.
I would say that probably when it comes to counterinsurgency and counterinsurgency, Brian is probably the go-to guy.
Right.
And I'd even say more so than Volko. Volko, who came up with the coin system, I would say Brian really has he's more of the student of counterinsurgency than say Volko.
Well, Volko's got the cachet of being ex-CIA and all that sort of stuff, and I think he's personable. And I've never met the guy; I've only seen him talk and stuff like that. He's a good salesman.
Oh, he's a really thoughtful guy. I mean, I've met him several times. I've chatted with him. He's a really great guy. He's a very thoughtful designer. He's also very thoughtful when he talks. You ask him a question, he doesn't go, oh, blah blah blah. He goes, let me ponder that before I answer it. He's deliberate in how he answers it. Yeah. He's a smart guy. He's a real smart dude. And it's just I had the fortunate opportunity to sit down and chat with him, and interview with him at not CSW, but San Diego Historical Games Convention, and it was a great time. And I've played with him and chatted with him several times, and a really great guy. And the coin system is a brilliant system. And the best part about it is he created this base system that everybody can explore from, which I think is really cool.
Yes. Well, it funds our gaming, our war games, right?
Yeah, and it funds GMT because that's evergreen, man.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're gonna put out a new coin game, sold out.
Yeah. Oh, 1,200 copies. Thanks for playing.
Exactly, which is brilliant. And having something like Morgan came out with her Pendragon series, which is a totally different take on things,
right?
And that's a little more involved, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
So it's great to have something like that to explore. And I know you're a big OCS guy. You really like OCS. What is your opinion on OCS versus BCS? Just kind of rounding this out before we close out for the night.
Super quick. OCS is a totally different beast to BCS, different scale and all that sort of stuff. But once you get your head around the BCS model, at that scale, it's really pretty cool because it's got there's a lot of tactics that you can employ. There's a lot of thoughtfulness in the mechanical exercises you need to go to sort of take down a unit or take a position.
Mm.
Same sort of things that you might do with OCS, but OCS is kind of done on a, generally speaking, on a grander scale, right? And
Yeah.
all the shuttling of trucks and supply. And so if you don't want to do that, you know, don't get into OCS. But
Yeah.
So to net that out, I would say that battalion scale is literally 2 or 3 divisions, and if it's 1 or 2 maps, I think it's ideal. But if it's 3, 4 or more maps with BCS, I'd avoid it. It's too much. Well, it's just it's like the last Blitzkrieg. There's, I don't know how many divisions are on there. It just gets hard. Just visually trying to interact with stuff. There's so much green, and I just was like, wow. But Brazen Chariots is amazing because it's a knife fight in the desert, right? It's awesome.
Yeah. It almost sounds like BCS is kind of similar to like Under an Iron Sky and Deadly Northern Lights, in the fact that those are the type of games that would actually benefit from playing a 4-player game, maybe even more, because then you can kind of split up the responsibilities across the front and say, hey, you know, I'm not just worrying about the whole thing. I'm going to take the east, you take west, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I would certainly play Deadly Northern Lights and or Under an Iron Sky multiplayer. That's the only way you get a full, rich experience. And obviously playing opposed with those games is much better anyway. OCS just lends itself to multiplayer really, really well. BCS probably not as much because, you know, it's alternating formations. So you're gonna like, oh, well, gee, I want to go. Well, no, I need to go. Well, I'm in trouble. No, so I could see that could get potentially awkward if you had.
Yeah, it would be difficult. You'd lose your tempo.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing these other games as a team, you know, it's like you and I might be playing on one side. We can consult before we make our move, and even though this is my responsibility or it's your responsibility, we're still consulting, you know, on it, which is
because it's kind of an I go you know, it's I go you go versus it's I go you go with the other game with BCS, but it's across 10 different formations. So
and that's where I think like less than 60 miles would be great for a convention with kind of a, I don't want to say refereed, but kind of a controlled environment where you had multiple people playing on each side, and then you had one person that can oversee it and say, okay, here's a scenario and here's a situation. And because you're really just, there's a lot, it's almost like OCS in the fact that you have to coordinate all this stuff, but you also see the complexity of moving all these units up to the front and then getting them in combat on time.
We had a hard time with that game. I had 4 of us playing it. I don't enjoy that game anywhere near as much as I enjoy Under an Iron Sky. So I'll say that. I probably won't play it again. Right? It was an experience. It's heavy on simulation and light on game. Yeah. But it's very thoughtful and very well done. It's just if you want to play sim, it's more sim than it is game.
Yeah. That would probably be great for like the War College type of stuff. Gaming out those things.
Yeah, or play a smaller scenario or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. So. But anyway, I think we've kind of gone on long enough. I think we've got got 14 people still on, which is really cool. I appreciate that. Awesome. And but we've gone on for it's my watch here. It's like, wow, holy crap.
37.
Yeah, we've gone on for almost, wow, that's a long time. But I mean, hey, this was not like an official Whiskey Charlie show. This was just a, hey, let's just hang out and have a Friday night. We're stuck inside. Let's have a few drinks and just BS about war games. We will have a show on Tuesday night and for Whiskey Charlie, and we'll be back with the regular cast, and we've got a special guest on Tuesday night, so make sure that you tune in on Tuesday night to welcome Harold Buchanan on Tuesday night. We'll be talking about the coin series. We were just talking about that, and we'll be talking about South China Sea, Flashpoint South China Sea, his upcoming game, as well as others. But really appreciate you guys taking the time tonight to hang with us and just chill out in a regular, just a relaxed show. If you guys like this format, maybe we'll do it a couple more times because we're all stuck inside. So why not have some fun?
And thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Kev. I mean, we always have a blast chatting on Facebook, and love watching your stuff on YouTube. And if you guys are not checking out the big board, make sure you check out the big board because he does a lot of great videos. And if you've been interested in Deadly Northern Lights or Under an Iron Sky, check it out. He's the only guy that's actually really covering this game in any detail. There's been a couple of unboxings and stuff like that, but he is actually deep diving into the game. So check it out for sure. And go check out his site. He's got plenty of other games he talks about too. So not like that's the only games he talks about.
It's cool. Thanks, bro. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, guys. We'll see you on Tuesday night with Whiskey Charlie and Harold Buchanan. Good night.